Lori, is Tracy Roxburgh in the office this morning?
She is.
Okay, thank you.
Might even be listening on the call, I would suspect.
Okay. I just sent her an email regarding a meeting.
Is Allison, is Adam around yet?
I haven't seen him yet.
Okay.
But he's got a minute, so.
Yeah. Okay, it's 9 o'clock and we'll start our corporate services meeting. Welcome to everyone that's listening in today. I'll call the meeting to order. Member Burkett, you had a few words to say, so Mayor Burkett, please come forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On Sunday, everyone, we lost not only a member of our council in the 2014 to 2018 year, but we lost a friend and a member of the community that was so dedicated to this area that he lived in. Don Westcott left us. And I'll never forget, whenever he greeted any one of us, it was hello, hello, hello. He'd walk in. Those memories that we had in the back room. We would have meetings at night and he'd come in and we'd talk about hockey. He loved those Maple Leafs. My heart goes out to his family, his friends, and of course his wife, Kathy. I don't know what to say. I feel so bad for them. So God bless you, Dawn, and I know that each and every one of us will say a little prayer for him. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Would you like to have a minute silence, Member Burkett?
I think that would be appropriate, Madam Chair, if everyone's okay with that.
Okay, we can bow your heads or do what you feel is right. We'll give them a minute. Okay, rest in peace to our good friend and fellow councillor, Don Westcott. So disclose your pecuniary interests or the general nature thereof. Seeing none, I would like to, please be advised that in accordance with the council's procedure bylaw, no decision will be made this morning on the delegations. The committee will do one of the following: refer the matter to staff for report, refer the matter to future budget deliberations, or take no action at all. So we're pleased today to have MP for Simcoe North, Adam Chambers, and MPP, the Honourable Minister of Colleges and Universities, Jill Dunlop. So we have I need to welcome you, and then we'd like to, on behalf of the Township of Severn and the residents, thank you for your recent funding provided in our public works service areas. Here are some of the projects that the Ontario government and the federal government have helped our township with. We were approved for the Washago Centennial Park Accessibility Washroom Upgrades project under the COVID-19 resilience stream. The budget approved $100,000 with 100% being grant eligible. The federal government is contributing 80% and the province was contributing 20%. We were approved for the Washago Community Center Outdoor Rink Project. Budget approved was $200,000 with a maximum grant of $182,600. The federal government contributed $40,000 and the Ontario government contributed $33.3. We've been approved for the multi-sport courts for all the projects. This is one that was forecasted to start in 2023 with a project value of $711,000. There will be something for everyone in this project: Washago, Marchmount, and Coldwater. The federal government is footing 40% with a total eligible cost of $284,000, and the Ontario government is contributing $236,976. We were approved for the Washago Community Centre Accessibility Door Project from the Ontario Trillium Foundation for the total grant of $110,000. That's 100%. Turning our attention to long-standing provincial funding streams, we are incredibly appreciative of the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund for $785,534 for 2022. In 2021, we received $349,575. So we can't thank both governments enough for helping to push our township forward. Okay, so Adam and Jill, we have 7 questions. So I think we'll start at the top and we'll just go down through each one. You can answer them, and if committee has any questions, just put your hands up and we'll go with that. So we'll start with broadband internet. Adam or Jill, whoever wants to go with that.
Do you want me to start with that one, Adam? I probably have lots to talk about that one.
Sure.
Actually, I'm going to start off. Thank you, Madam Chair, Mayor, Councillor, and my colleague, MP Adam Chambers. It's great to be here today. I think this is a great opportunity for us to be able to come back and share with Council and with the constituents of the Severn Township some of the things that we're working on and questions you may have. And I know we're always open to doing this. And considering it's virtual, it's quite easy for all of us to come together. And I will acknowledge that today is Pink Shirt Day. And I see Madam Chair's also wearing pink. And it's just to raise awareness and address bullying in our schools, workplaces, homes, and online. And I know we probably all have social media accounts, so bullying can take place in any form. So a little bit about infrastructure, Ministry of Infrastructure as regards to high-speed internet in the township of Severn and across Ontario, because I know this is something that everyone is particularly interested in. And, you know, given the times where people are now learning from home, running their businesses from home, working from home, it's more important now more than ever. So the provincial government is striving to have high-speed internet services to all homes province-wide by the end of 2025. So I'm going to just kind of go back and talk about some of the investments that have been made and a little bit about what is still yet to come. So in 2019, the province committed nearly $4 billion to bring access to reliable high-speed internet for all communities across the province. And this is the single largest investment in high-speed internet in any province by any government in Canadian history. So the province has committed over $900 million to over 180 broadband, cellular, and satellite projects to date, and bringing faster internet to 375,000 homes and businesses across the entire province, and significantly improving cellular connectivity through Eastern Ontario as well. In July of 2021, we announced a joint $1.2 billion investment in 58 new projects that will bring high-speed internet to up to 280,000 homes and businesses across Ontario. So a total of 3 projects co-funded with the federal government have been approved in the township of Severn. So we're working hard with the federal government to move these projects forward as quickly as possible, and we will have more information to share in the coming weeks. We've also committed more than $63 million to the $255 million Southwestern Integrated Fiber Technology, or SWIFT project, which is expected to expand access to high-speed internet to approximately 58,000 underserved homes and businesses across Ontario. So in total, 89 contracts have been awarded to 19 different service providers to build high-speed broadband infrastructure in underserved areas. So in Severn Bridge, this was a project, the lead applicant to construct a fiber to home network deploying almost 20 kilometers of fiber to serve 470 homes. SWIFT has moved forward with projects in several counties, and these projects are expected to be completed on or before June of 2023. And Currently, to address the households and businesses that have not been included in existing projects and programs, the government actually launched a competitive process this past September, led by Infrastructure Ontario, in which internet service providers will bid for the opportunity to provide access to high-speed internet for these designated areas across the province. So this process is currently underway, and we should be reporting the results in the coming months. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing those investments, not only in Severn Township, but across the riding of Simcoe North.
Thank you. Adam, do you have anything to add to that?
Thanks very much, Jane. Nice to see you. Nice to see everyone. Thanks, Minister. I'd only add that in 2019, the federal government had brought out their large federal program, which is about $5 billion. They mentioned in last budget last year, topping up that fund. Their initial goal in 2019 was to do high speed everywhere for 90% of Canadians or 95% of Canadians, which would cover all of our area by about late 2020s. I expect that this next budget that's coming up will give additional money to provinces to increase the pace with which they can do this. And so Jill is exactly right that we have to work well together to make sure that Ontario gets its fair share of the federal money, and then obviously within the provincial money that our region across all of Severn, but all of North Simcoe or Simcoe North gets its fair share to help our citizens.
Okay, any questions from the members? Member Paquette. You can just hold your space bar down, Mike.
You're muted. Yeah.
Sorry. Good morning. And through you, Madam Chair, thank you to both you, MP Chambers and Minister Dunlop, for being here. Thank you for your presentation, Minister Dunlop. What I'm struggling to understand is how, yes, there's all this money available, and I'm appreciative, because behind COVID, it seems what it's brought out, even though it's a pandemic, what it's brought out and made us realize is that we need high-speed internet throughout the whole province if we're going to function, if we're going to survive as a province. The funding that is available, how does one access it? How do they pick and choose? And I know yesterday at County Council, I even asked that question. How do they arrive at which areas need to be serviced? Like the one that we're having here in Severn, and thank you very much for that. I don't understand how the process works, and nobody really can give me an answer to that. And I don't know if you have an answer.
That would be something I would have to get further information on, but I know they are looking at across the province in the areas that are underserved. But like you said, Mayor, and I know we see it everywhere, that people are, they're learning from home, they're running their businesses. When you look at the technology that's involved in farming nowadays, right? It's all relying on the internet. So it is so important that we're striving. I think that the 2025 date to have that high-speed internet across the province is something that we are working with the federal government to ensure. But the contracts are being awarded, and it's kind of the responsibility of municipalities to work with those service providers to ensure that they have the permits provided to move forward with projects when they come to your townships, municipalities.
So supplementary, Madam Chair, to Minister Dunlop, your comments about working with the providers, but how do we as a township know that they're even coming here? And how do we as a township, or how do these providers know which areas are underserviced? Like I know some of the areas, but how do they arrive at this, and how do they work with us? Because we haven't got the resources, nor do we have the staff to compile that information and give it back to them.
Well, I'd be happy to look into that further. And then if there's specific projects that we can acknowledge that, our township is needing this, to be able to work with the service provider. So I'm happy to get more information on exactly how we can make those connections with the service providers.
Thank you very much.
Just to comment on that, Mike, remember a couple of years ago, they asked us to go around our township and identify areas that were bad. And then we forwarded that. That must be how they found out, because I know Member Taylor and I went through subdivisions around Coldwater here and submitted it. Member Paquette.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Well, to that comment, remember years ago, we actually sent out a survey to all
Yes.
our residents, and we were way ahead of the curve. So we knew who had and who didn't. And I think we provided that. I'm not sure if it was the county we provided it to. Can't remember who we provided it to, but fast forward to today, this is what's really confusing. I have no idea how these providers come into our communities and know which areas that are underserviced and which areas are serviced, because there's both, right? So this is what I'm struggling with. Anyways, thank you very much.
To follow up, I'm sure Adam is as well, kind of at the end of today. If there's any questions that arise from the conversation, that we can follow up with some supplementary information too.
Okay. Do you have anything to add, Adam, or Member Cox?
Yeah, through the chair to either Jill or Adam. I've been doing a lot of reading about this, and the internet service providers, they went on the reverse auction. People sent out, like if you look at Bruce, Grey County said the Bruce Grey internet service over there came to them and said, came to town of Blue Mountain and said, we want to do this. We know there's areas here. So they put in as internet service providers. Then they obviously bid on the contracts that came out. And I understand that. But what I'm not understanding is that when I read the press releases, is that Lambton is getting like tons, like they are almost totally internet service provided down in that one area. And yet we up here still are waiting, and we had our information. And so Jill, if you could just find out how that happened. And I understand it's supposed to be Southwestern Swift is, but I've asked this question and no one seems to be able to say. They say, well, you've got, we got Canal Road and Severn Street. But unfortunately, most of ours are out at the end of everything and in the middle of nowhere. And even the gentleman who was doing satellite said that certain service providers will only go so far. And then after they stop, you're dead. And that's where our people are on those dead areas, which they may have to be satellite or tower fed for those. So it's just curious that some areas have been seen to have all it happening and other areas don't. So I don't know if we don't have enough service providers up here or they don't know, but we didn't seem to have a lot of bids. That's just some information.
Okay, happy to look into that further.
Any other questions through the members? Okay, if not, then we'll move on now to short-term rentals. Adam or Jill, whoever wants to.
I mean, I can start this one, and we'll pass it to Jill after. On the short-term rentals, obviously, this is not an issue that's located only to, Severn. This is kind of across the province, but across the country, in particular in areas where there's a lot of tourism. One of the areas where the federal government can be a little bit more aggressive here is likely through the CRA. And so I know that the chair and I had some discussions about this previously. I had shared verbally a view of some thoughts with one of my colleagues who I know is on the revenue, is on a committee with the revenue minister, or excuse me, the revenue parliamentary secretary. And so that's something I'll continue to just raise as a potential option for CRA to become a little bit more interested in some of these businesses or properties that are operating as a business, and how's that going from a tax filing perspective. And so that is one area where I think the federal government could play a role in the short-term rental area.
Thank you.
I was just going to add to that as well, because I heard it from other from municipalities, other concerns about it. But then, we do have some municipalities like Toronto, Ottawa, Prince Edward County, Blue Mountain, Collingwood area that have regulated short-term rentals and or home sharing activities in their communities. So it's it would be through the Municipal Act that municipalities would currently have that authority to enact bylaws to address the local concerns and priorities that would regulate short-term rental activity. So I know it's something that Severn struggles with. I live in Oro-Medonte, so I know they struggle with it as well. But I think it's something, if we can be having the conversations between all levels of government and what we can be doing, because in some areas it is working really well and it's addressing that need for short-term housing and for tourist activities. But at the same time, we all know that there's the other side to it, where we're dealing with having to police in, and neighbors being upset by, activity and partying that's going on at some short-term rentals.
Okay, thank you. Do members have any questions? Member Cox, then Member Paquette.
Yeah, through the chair. I guess, Jill and Adam, my concern is it's the amount of money that municipalities are spending to try to look after these or police these systems. And when I see that one municipality, like 50 miles from me, like Blue Mountain, is up to like $3 million, and then they're going to court, and then somebody else does it. And I guess that's where I'm coming from is instead of everybody out there trying to all spend, and we're all doing exactly the same thing, but it's like we're spinning tires. And I know some things work, and then all you do is have somebody take you to LPAT and then you sit there and you wait and you spend money on lawyers. So I was just thinking that I think my rationale on wanting to talk to you two about this is if we could all get together, and I know one size doesn't fit all, but it would be really nice if the CRA was involved, because that could be a help, and maybe there's something the province could do. Then the costs wouldn't be borne on the backs of the municipality, which we have a hard enough time sometimes too. That's just my comment on that, and I appreciate you listening.
Thank you. Member Paquette.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair, to MP Chambers. CRA that you mentioned, how would they go about knowing whether these culprits that are running short-term rentals are paying their fair share of taxes? Like, this may be a deterrent. I hate to say it, but what the chaos that they're creating in all our municipalities across the province, across the country, and just no respect for the neighbors in the neighborhoods that they move into. Like, I know that if I don't pay my taxes, they'll seize my bank account. So I'm curious, like, what measures would the CRA take, knowing the thousands and thousands of dollars that I can only assume that they are making, and are they reporting all of it?
There's a few things. One, I mean, you can report, like you're always able to report, through, there's a CRA hotline, but others in jurisdictions or municipalities where there's a licensing regime, CRA could have the ability to kind of cross-reference those properties that have licenses with those in, like, tax filers, to say, okay, have these properties been designated principal residence? If not, like, there is information out there that could be available to CRA. In addition, you now have to declare, I think as of 2017, which of the residences you own is your primary residence. And if you are renting any property out for income, you do need to declare that income. And so if there is any kind of evidence to suggest otherwise, that would give CRA a reason to start poking around. And then, of course, once they started to do that, it probably wouldn't take too long before people kind of figured out that they were looking into these issues. So I do think it would send a signal that, if you're running this as a business, you're going to have to comply not just with municipal bylaws, but also making sure that you're declaring the appropriate income.
Thank you.
I want to make a comment too. Is this something that's ever been discussed or has been discussed at AMO and with recommendations brought forward to the province? Considering everything saying right now, as Councillor Cox, you had mentioned not having so much of one size fits all for all municipalities, but I think if it hasn't been, it's a worthwhile discussion at AMO to bring recommendations forward to the province.
Okay, maybe Laurie knows. CEO Laurie.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm losing track of my years during COVID, but the last time AMO was in person, we did do a delegation with the minister. I think it was the parliamentary secretary at the time, but about our concerns. I wouldn't say we specifically brought recommendations because we haven't figured out how to solve our particular problems, but we did ask for provincial help to Member Cox's point, because we think municipalities are having similar problems. So we were hoping for a more collective solution.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be a good idea to do that because, like I said, some municipalities do allow it and are successful, but so they would probably continue to want to move forward with that. But for those that aren't and it's costing, then I think looking at, what recommendations and kind of across all municipalities to bring that voice forward would be something I would suggest.
So my comments are to Adam. You and I have talked about the CRA, and I think when I was in business, they taxed me, they tax everybody that's in business, and yet people are buying these homes as a business. And like you said, they're not primary residents, and they're making money and good money off it. And I don't know any government that doesn't need an income coming into them. How about
Absolutely.
That's a huge one that they could tax. Anyway, okay, thanks for that. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to floating container cottages.
I can take this one first, and so this is another multi-jurisdictional issue. We also share part of this with the immediate municipality to the north, which is also being a different riding. So both Parry Sound, Muskoka, and Georgian Bay Township. And of course, there's local engaged constituents in terms of the Cottagers Association and people who have bringing this to our attention. So there's a few updates to provide here. I also recommend that at the end of this meeting, or perhaps in the future, we might have a separate discussion with our partners, both from Transport Canada, from the province, and also from our neighbors just to the north. So Transport Canada has deemed the floating containers a vessel. And so, so it's not considered a structure, which would take it outside of the municipal building code. But it does, because it is a vessel, it does now need to comply with the regulations for a small craft vessel. And so Transport Canada, we have been asking Transport Canada when they might do an inspection, and also about the location for which they are able to park or set up for extended periods of time. That also brings into the province, and my counterpart just to the north has been discussing with the provincial, I guess it's the Minister of Natural Resources, about the ability for these vessels to be parked for any periods of time. And so the province is also looking at, my understanding is the province is also looking at restrictions and potential actions that they could take with respect to these vessels. As well, we have also reached out to the Federal Ministry of Environment to make sure that some of the materials that are used and the wastewater and stuff that's created on these vessels is actually being treated and disposed of in a way that's appropriate for the environment, including some of the styrofoam that's used to help it float. So we are engaged with both Transport Canada Environment at the federal level and at the provincial level, the Minister of Natural Resources, which is Minister Rickford, his office, and we do keep in touch. And, we're in a winter period now, but of course, the spring's not that far around the corner. I think it would be really good for us to stay on this one and perhaps get some people together in the same room to make sure we know what we're doing kind of before spring and summer open up.
That would be great. Adam. Jill?
I think Adam covered it very well. And I was going to add the only one other ministry I think you left out was Ministry of Environment, Conservation, and Parks. Okay. They've also been part of the conversation too, but it was brought to the attention of Minister Rickford's office. And I know they have been meeting with our colleagues. So I agree with you. This is something that we need to stay on and be working together on and find a solution to it, because it does really is kind of all levels of government and many ministries working together.
Okay, questions from the members? Member Taylor.
Good morning and welcome our representatives provincially and federally. When this first came around, I thought the problem was Crown water, federal water, and provincial land. But there's nothing stopping a private owner on Gloucester Pool as securing this, now if Adam calls it a vessel, 1 foot from the shoreline, and this could be used as a short-term rental. It could be used as a bunkie. It could be used as more dock space. So they're taking advantage of the situation here, and the township saying, well, it's not on township property. It's out of our jurisdiction. And the other horror story I've got is that someone could technically put this floating vessel on Gloucester Pool, 1 foot from private property. So it's like, it's not just Gloucester Pool, federal water and Crown land. It could be a bag of just terrible. And so, and Adam mentioned it, it's the construction material environmentally, that how is it interacting with the water, the effluent, because I think a vessel can put gray water into the water, and that's not right. And public safety, as far as what building codes are met. And the bottom line for me is that these vessels show no respect for Crown land or neighboring property owners.
Okay, any other questions from the members? Member Burkett.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair, to Adam, and thank you very much for doing what you've done so far, to both you and Jill. This meeting that you would like to have with the ministries, when do you think you could set this up, so that I know that we have all kinds of residents that have been reaching out to us, and we have no authority over the water nor over Crown land, and unfortunately we have nothing for them. I'm hoping that the minister or the Transport Canada comes through with some rules, but do you see something in the near future before spring, before the onset of spring?
I would certainly hope that we could have a meeting before spring. I mean, if that's something that obviously it sounds like you'd be interested in doing, we should just take that away as a follow-up and through our offices, but look to coordinate something. I know that there was a meeting with I think the mayor of Georgian Bay Township and Minister Rickford. I think there was a couple takeaways from that the ministry was going to look into, but I think we could follow up and say, okay, what more do we know? Can we actually just get some people together that are interested to deal with this prior to, this becoming more of an issue once the summer season rolls around? But yes, I would expect that we should be able to do that certainly by, within a month or so.
I was going to add, I think also I would like to see that happen in April, because we're going to be in a bit of a transition period come May. So it would be better to have, with everybody in their current positions and educated on the issue, to bring them together at that time. So if we can plan something for the middle to end of April, that would be good.
Great.
Thank you.
Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair. The comments that Member Taylor made are very valid. And I think that those are comments that maybe should go to Adam and Jill as sort of background, because
Member Burkett.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair, to Adam. Would this will just be a meeting amongst hopefully the ministers and ourselves? Is that the way you see it?
I would hope so. And then we could decide whether, depending on what comes of that, or if there's any determinations, we could figure out if there's an opportunity to have an open meeting with any members of the community. I know that happens sometimes. Like if we have the right officials there, I mean, it could be an ask that we have of our ministry officials, both at the provincial and federal level as well. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable committing them to that today without having a discussion with them, but that is maybe a potential where this goes.
So
I think it's also,
Madam Chair. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, it's also worthwhile, I think, to bring in the other two municipalities, and we're having the same conversation with the same people. So I think if we're kind of all aligned in how we're moving forward with this, that would make the most sense.
So supplementary, through Madam Chair, to Adam, based on what's happening within our area, are there other jurisdictions across Canada where the same thing is happening? Like, does the minister or the Transport Canada understand that if this is allowed here, and the pricing of cottages and homes throughout Canada the way they've gone, we'll probably see more of this? I just hope they understand the urgency of what's happening.
I think they do. I know that it was mentioned that out west they're having a little bit of challenges with these too. I think there was quite an aggressive approach taken by a municipality on talking about stretched budgets. I'm not sure that's necessarily, now that we have a determination from Transport Canada, like, I don't know if you could try to declare this a structure. It's probably best to kind of work through what the determination is here work with Transport Canada, work with the ministry officials that we have at the federal and provincial levels, and see what kind of resolution this can bring, while also reminding people of the reality of the situation of, with the cost of prices, this makes this more attractive. 1 meter, 1 foot off of somebody's property and being used as additional, be completely separated from the person whose property it is near.
Thank you.
Okay, so my concerns are, I'm looking at Jim McIntyre. He has a beautiful home on the canal. How would you like it, Jim, if everyone put one of those container homes out in front of their place? First of all, you're blocking the view, and so all that together. But then because they're on federal, the township can't tax them. There's no building permits. They're just free to be there. And my concern is the gray water. How much gray water can all these places put into our waters? And then the chemical toilets, where do they empty all the ash? Like, it's got to go somewhere. Do they just overboard with that? It really, it's disturbing. So if we could plan a meeting like Minister Dunlop said, and have it before the end of April, but maybe what we could do, it's just a suggestion, is to have, if we had a meeting like today as a learning meeting, and we had our residents submit questions into us, so that we, you can't have everybody just pounding questions at us, because they'll be the same ones over and over. So if we could have a submission of questions from each township who's ever meeting, I think that'd be a good idea if we could have that meeting.
Great idea.
I see CAO Kennard had her card up there. Yes.
Thank you, through the chair. Not related to this, but I just wanted to point out, members, we're having power problems at the office. It's been going on and off, and our generator's been kicking out. So I don't know if John has also lost power, or member Betsworth, and that's perhaps why he's dropped off. And I'm not sure about member Stevens either. So I just wanted to point that out. David doesn't seem to be on the line, and I suspect he's figuring out our streaming problems, because I don't know what happens when we don't have power. Technology is only good when it works, but
okay,
so if we're going in and out, we're having power problems here.
We hope
we'll try and get the other members back.
Okay, thanks. So we'll go on to the next provincial heritage mapping. Oh, sorry, member Cox and member Burkett.
Maybe somebody should get hold of John. At least he could come in and be on the telephone with it. So at least he could hear. He might not be able to see us. We could just check with him on that if David could.
Okay, thank you, Laurie. Member Burkett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Adam, I think if we could have it sooner rather than later, this meeting, like April may be too late. The ice will be gone out of the water, and my fear more of these would show up. I'm hoping that again, that Transport Canada understands the urgency, whatever decision we come up with. But if we can at least start the dialogue as soon as possible, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
With it being no later than the end of April, right? As soon as possible, but no later. Okay, we're going to move on to provincial heritage mapping.
So this is something that somebody on this call may have spoke to me quite a bit about in the past, but I know the township is proposing refinements to the provincial natural heritage system mapping. So the proposed refinements will be provided to the County of Simcoe as part of their municipal comprehensive review. So I know you have expressed concerns about natural heritage system mapping and the areas where development has already received approvals in the township. So I'm happy to take that back, but I know that because those are being brought forward with the county, or I'm not sure if they have or have not already. I guess that's maybe my question back to the committee as well.
Thank you. Adam, do you have any input, or it's provincial, so we'll let you go on this one, Adam.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Chair.
Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair to Jill, I just wish that the province would understand, and I mean, but I wish the people above would understand that they need to talk to local municipalities. We know, like, we're like, our planners are planners, just like their planners are down in Toronto. And they need to understand that we know our area and we don't want to destroy anything. We are environmentally conscious. But when I have people come to me and say, I've owned this piece of property for so many years, and I just want to sever 2 lots, and they're both on rock, and I have somebody telling me that that's prime agricultural land and it can't be done. And it's not, it's like an infill. And those are the small things, I know, maybe, but those are important things to people, especially in this day and age with the, the cost of housing and their children. But there's things like that. And I don't mean to just be about severing. There's so many things that they just don't understand, that we and our staff are good people. Like, we follow the policies and we don't mind following the policies, but sometimes they need to trust us that we know what we're doing. And I know that you know exactly where I'm coming from, because you've seen it and you know that. But it's just, I wish sometimes that maybe you could give them a little nudge and say, they do know what they're talking about, and it is their land and it is their residence, and we hear from them. So it's just something that has always bothered me, that they just seem to think that we haven't sort of done our due diligence. But anyway, thank you.
Okay.
No, well, it doesn't just affect your municipality. It does affect a lot in Simcoe County. So I'm hoping that you're working with the county, so you're kind of at that next tier to, you say, so they know what's happening in our area as well, and they can recognize that.
Yeah, we're trying. Thank you.
Member Burkett.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair, to Jill. Just to carry on from Member Cox's comments, 84% of our township is blanketed by the heritage mapping.
Mm-hmm.
It's and my struggle is, yes, the county is the upper tier, and to Member Cox's comments, we live here. Our planners are versed and know our township better than they do down in Toronto. All we're asking, and we've gone back to the county and explained to them where we'd like to remove certain areas, and we're very conscious and we're environmentally sensitive, like conscious of the fact that we want to protect those lands. But I think what I would like to see is the minister in charge needs to give that direction to the county to allow that mapping that's gone back, to allow us to use those and utilize those areas that we've gone back to. So we have hired an outside consulting firm to help us with our official plan. With their help and our planners' help, we've gone back to the county, as I said, with mapping that we'd like to see happen. And I don't think it's huge what we're asking, the ask that we're asking, but like I feel that the county is going to say no, and I'm looking for some help from the province to allow the county to understand, as Member Cox has said, each one of us in the county of Simcoe knows our townships the best. And I think just to give us that little bit of leeway to allow us that extra mapping, or taking away from the mapping, and allow us to utilize that extra area would be helpful.
So some flexibility then from the minister.
Yes.
Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing then to allow for those changes in the mapping in specific areas.
Yeah, knowing that we know our townships the best, right? Our staff and again, we have an outside consulting firm that's doing an new official plan for us. And yes, they've helped us along with it as well.
Okay.
CAO Kennard.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify something Member Burkett said, and the MPP hit it on the head about flexibility. The county isn't necessarily saying no, Member Burkett. They're saying it doesn't fit within what we're asking for. It doesn't fit within the provincial guidelines. So it's a bit circular here, but I think MPP Dunlop hit it where what we're looking for is flexibility to manage our own circumstances.
And are you hearing that from other municipalities in the county as well? I mean, so we're not the only ones kind of knocking our head on the wall here saying, it's just us, we need this. It's other municipalities, from what I understand too, that are in the same situation, that are going to be forced with not being able to grow because of the natural heritage mapping.
And then you've got the municipalities that are going to be forced to grow because that's where they're pushing the population, and they're saying, stop, we can't afford this. We can't afford the infrastructure to support these people. So they're saying, send some of that population north. But my concern also is if this annexation takes over, now that Ramirez is out of it, that means more property is going to come out of Severn and Ormondante. And if you look at Severn and you take out an annexation area that their wish list is on, and then you take out the natural heritage, it doesn't leave Severn much left. How do we get tax dollars to support our municipality? That scares me. Okay, we'll move on to the growth plan.
Yes, that's me too. I was actually just I thought I could address the City of Vermilion part at the same time, maybe the two together to kind of follow up to your last comment. But I mean, we know that the City of Vermilion is exploring the potential annexation of lands from the surrounding municipalities, so Ormondante and Severn Township. So, and I know that the township has expressed early concerns about how you feel about annexation. I know I see comments on social media as well from local residents who are objected to this. So, you know, I'm willing to continue working with you. I know the City of Vermilion is also looking at other options as well. And I think densification is one thing that I've heard them discussing and looking at, you know, opportunities to go up and rather than go out. So I think it's a continued discussion that I feel that they're willing to have as well with the surrounding municipalities.
Adam, do you have any comment on that, or you're good? You're okay. And that's what I think is, like, Hamilton grew up. They've decided to go up, not out. So hopefully Aurelia can, as you said, they're looking at that, and that would be great. Okay, then we'll go on to the last one. It's odor issues related to cannabis. Adam, you're on.
Yeah, thank you. So this one's me. In 2021, that's when the last the consultations concluded. I don't want to make any excuses for causes of an election, but we have not heard much feedback since the end of those consultations. I do know that some surrounding municipalities have expressed significant concerns, both through their federal members, but also their municipal officials. One of my colleagues in Barrie Springwater or Ormondante has had a session with Health Canada for an update. And so I will be getting some additional information. Be more than happy to either pass that information straight through or look to coordinate. If you're looking for an update, like a meeting, could coordinate a representative from the ministry or from that department to provide an update to your council and to your residents, whether that's done in a public forum or not. I do know they have done this in other regions of the country, but we have not heard any official kind of readouts from the end of the consultation period. And I do know that it is a serious issue, and a lot of residents have concerns across all our region.
Thanks. I think that'd be a good idea, Adam. Jill, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I'm going to agree with Adam on his comments there.
Okay. Member Burkett, you had a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair, to Adam. Thank you for that, Adam. I think this stems back to the fact that the Director of Health Canada's hands are tied based on whatever law was enacted by the House years ago. So basically, the people that have these licenses, and I was able to speak along with our staff here at the Township of Severn with the Director of Health Canada. I could hear the crackling in his voice because his hands were tied. Basically, the doctors are at fault, and whoever issues the licenses, which is Health Canada, I can only presume. So my understanding is for any given residence, you could have 4 licenses, which would.
Good morning, Simon. It's Michelle Prophet-Healy calling from the Township of Severn.
Michelle, you're live.
325.
Michelle, you're live.
Extension 250. I just was going to touch base with you before your start date, which is next Monday.
Thanks, Allison.
Sorry. So there's two things at play here. Whoever's allowing the ones that are actually getting the licenses, so they're able to have 4 licenses at any given premise. They're able to remove the plant and take it to their principal residence and dry it. Like, it was very disheartening to hear what actually goes on. Like, I think it has to go back to the House to somehow regulate. And I'm not against someone using it for medicinal purposes, but there's no way you can smoke 1,000 plants. Like that is, they're doing something else. And I've even confronted the OPP because I did see them in white gear. We do have one in our neighborhood. The problem is they come into our neighborhoods. We don't know who they are. The smell, they fall under no jurisdiction. We can't touch them at all. So I'm not sure how you go about doing that. And I don't think talking to the Director of Health Canada is going to help us at all, because he doesn't have an answer. It has to go back to the floor.
And that, I think that's right. My understanding was there's a bit of a loophole in the legislation and the regulations that kind of allow this to occur. So I do think, there is a potential legislative solution here. The challenge with those are they often take a significant amount of time to kind of work their way through. I will talk to some of my other colleagues to see if there's any discussion on the legislative side, whether there's any deals being brokered with the current government to see if we are doing these, thinking about closing a loophole.
Member McCann.
Supplementary through Madam Chair to Adam. So Adam, there's 30,000 licenses from the last time, that was quite a few years ago, that I spoke to the Director of Health Canada. There are only 10 inspectors across Canada to do any enforcement. It's very troublesome when, yes, you can send an email and you can complain about the smell, but the chances of someone showing up, they will show up, but there'll be no smell. There's a huge loophole, and I don't know how you go after the doctors. I don't know how you go after the culprits that are actually looking for these licenses, because they actually came to our office. They don't fall under any building codes. They basically have carte blanche when they have that medicinal license, which is just unfair. And it's not only isolated to here in Severn. It's, as I said, there's 30,000 of these right across all of Canada with very little enforcement. I'll just leave it at that. Hopefully something will come out of it, but we'll see.
Thank you. So Adam, if you can get back to us with information, that'd be great. My comment is, I've been next door to Grow Up. It wasn't a Grow Up, it was personal, but my head just pounds. And how they can allow somebody to have that would cause your neighbors to be upset, headaches and sick. When I know there's a small business close by that roasts nuts and she can't let the smell of those nuts go outside. So why are you letting one business do it and not another? That's my comments. Okay, I think, do you have any follow-ups, anybody, any questions, any comments from the members? Member Cox?
Yeah, through the chair to Adam. Adam, I think also you might want to look into Norfolk. And if you have a member of parliament down there, they had a huge issue, and I'm not sure how that went. They have huge farms of it down there, and I think a lot of them taken over where the tobacco farmers were around in that area. But I do remember talking to our director of planning, and that was one of the ones that came up first with the smell issue and all the things. So I'm not sure what they've done down there.
Okay, Member Briquette.
Thank you, through Madam Chair to Adam. So Adam, any of the facilities that apply for a license to grow marijuana fall under oodles of regulations that they have to even comply with to build such a facility. But the medicinal part is the loophole. When you issue that medicinal license, nothing applies to the ones that are applying for it. They actually can do whatever they want, which is very disheartening. So it works for one, but doesn't work for the other. It would be different if they were growing the 5 or 10 plants that they need to control whatever ailments they have. But when you have doctors are at fault as well. So they're having doctors that are actually prescribing far more than what they actually need. And this is how they're able to I think one license allows you to grow 250 plants. And then the location can have up to 4 licenses. So that's 1,000 plants at any given location. And that was right from the Director of Health Canada. And as I said, his hands are tied based on legislation.
Member Cox.
Yeah, and through to Adam. And I also think that when you apply and it's not medicinal, there are requirements for smell. There are requirements for ventilation, but I don't think there are any for the medicinal ones. I don't think that they have any regulation on ensuring that those people are, the smell is an issue. You can check on that, but I'm pretty sure that's part of the problem too.
Okay, I'd like to thank Adam and Jill for joining us today and making us feel comfortable about asking you questions, and anything you can get back to us on, we appreciate it. So any of the public that was listening in that perhaps didn't get their questions answered today, I'm sure if you called Adam or Jill's office, you could get an appointment and meet one-on-one with them or send them an email. So thank you very much. Looks like John Betsworth Member Betsworth.
Thank you. To you, Chair. My apologies for not participating. We had an internet outage and a power outage here during the conversation. I wanted to participate. It may be the reason why Member Stevens has been knocked out here too. Yeah. So my apologies. Thank you to our guests.
Member Betsworth, did you have a question that you would have liked to have asked?
No, the subject's passed, and that's fine.
Okay, thank you very much, Jill and Adam, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, so we're moving on, but I just think before we move on, now my agenda's disappeared. Anyway, if you don't mind, we'll just have a 5-minute break and then come right back. So if
Madam Chair, just before we take that 5-second break, if we can just pass a motion to just receive the delegation with thanks, that would be great.
Member Cox is gone. What do I do?
We can do it when we get back.
Sure. Okay, thanks. And I'll try and get my agenda back.
We're working on Member Stevens.
strategy and implementation plans. And certainly, as we've heard earlier today, during the pandemic, municipalities all across the country have figured out that building a broadband strategy is just as important as building an economic development strategy in order to solve for the gaps that are happening in their communities. So my objective today is to share some information about what we see in your area. We work with other municipalities, particularly, for example, we're just finishing up a project with the District of Muskoka, and we try to help townships and municipalities figure out what actually needs to be done. So hopefully this information will be useful to you. When we start a broadband strategy, it normally starts with identifying the locations where there are gaps in broadband. And this map, I'm certain, is familiar to you, but what you're seeing on this map are all of the red lines that say where there is not sufficient broadband. In other words, it's underserviced. And I heard a question earlier today about how do service providers know this information? Though the federal government, through the CRTC, collects annual reports from the various service providers, and they provide that level of mapping detail right down to 250-meter road segments with the speed that's available. And so here the red lines show where there is not 50 by 10. So a broadband strategy, after identifying this, is usually used to attract or to entice, encourage service providers to come to the community and fill these gaps and solve those problems. So I commend both levels of the federal and provincial government for coming up with funding programs in order to help that happen. But the broadband strategy doesn't stop there. It has to continue on, because even though we can see clearly that there are underserviced areas, if we look at the magnitude in Severn specifically, there's 408 kilometers of roads that are underserviced. Now, looking at that map, you can see the household plots, and some of those roads have no households on them, but certainly it's a very large scale problem. It covers about 2,600 households that are identified as being underserviced in the township. This project is pretty outstanding. It's a substantial investment. A rough estimate would be on the order of about $40 million to service all of those homes. And not only that, it can take a significant amount of time. This project, even if there were multiple fiber crews available to do the work, would take more than 2 years to actually finish. And so this is why it's really important that in the next several weeks, we're going to hear announcements, both from the feds and the province, on who is getting awarded which projects in order to build, because they need to commence building right away. But a project of this scale has a pretty big impact on the township and council, because once a project starts, there is a massive physical installation that needs to take place. And there are township and municipal policies that affect the ability to actually construct or to build out that infrastructure. And so these are ones that even once funding is awarded and service providers are selected, as a township, you may be thinking about how to make these processes work efficiently or how to deal with them. For instance, the service providers need to go get pre-engineering locates. They need to figure out where the other services are in the roadway so that they can build their infrastructure. Once they're done that, they need to do some engineering. So in other words, they have to figure out the routes and they have to inspect poles and determine how they're going to deploy that infrastructure. And they take that and submit it for municipal consent. The municipal consent may be approved within a month, but some of the non-standard or larger ones will take more time. And as per the township policies, if the work isn't completed within 1 year, then the municipal consent needs to be resubmitted. Once the application is approved, service providers require a road occupancy permit. So they need to file that at least 30 days before the work. And then they have a valid permit for 60 days to be able to actually construct the work, whether that's digging up the road or attaching things to the poles. Along with the road occupancy permit, they need to get locates again. Locates, of course, in the township are outsourced to Ontario One Call. It takes about a week for them to get those, but it can take even longer. And they're only valid for 30 days, or they have to get additional locates again. And once all of that process is fulfilled, then they can actually start construction. And as I pointed out, this is a significant project. One crew will typically build underground fiber at a rate of about 200 meters per day. So, even with 3 crews building in the township of Severn, it would still be a 2-year project. And finally, after all of this is done, of course, there has to be restoration. So if they've dug up roads, or if they've plowed something along a roadway, that needs to be repaired. So it's a significant undertaking to be able to build those more than 400 kilometers of underserviced roads in the township. And that's why a broadband strategy can really help, even when there's a service provider and funding already, so that you can look out into the future and be able to help solve the problem. First and foremost is facilitating the coordination. In other words, there could be multiple service providers building at the same time, or there could be other developments happening, and being able to make sure that those service providers and other developments are happening together in a way that is optimizing the deployment and minimizing the disruption is really key. And your broadband strategy can help do that. It's also important to simplify the policies and processes for getting permitting. The processes exist for good reason, right? We want to make sure that things are done safely, effectively, that they're going to not interfere with the integrity of the roads or the infrastructure. But at the same time, because of the different timing and the level and number of different policies that need to be done, coordinating a construction effort of this scale is very difficult. It's very time consuming. And as you saw on the previous slide, if some things are missed or some things time out, then the process starts again. So looking at those policies and procedures is helpful. Also having accurate mapping. I heard this earlier, where are the locations? But being able to have the GIS details of where there are services and where there are not services is absolutely critical to being able to build out broadband efficiently. And then also looking at the approved installation methods. You will find that service providers today are looking more towards wanting to plow fiber into the sides of roads, which generally isn't widely accepted by municipalities in the country. There are many reasons why your public works departments might not want to do that, but there are methodologies that minimize the cost for implementation and expedite the implementation. So looking at those installation methods with an eye towards making sure you're still protecting the township architecture or infrastructure is something that a broadband strategy would address. And then finally, defining municipal supports. One thing that I think is important for every municipality to understand is that they're not alone in their need for broadband. And in fact, they're in competition with all other municipalities who are also trying to attract the broadband service providers to come in and deliver infrastructure. So finding ways in order to support those service providers and or the crews that are necessary, the actual physical construction teams that are going to be needed in order to execute this is really important. I can't stress enough that once all of this funding is released from the federal and provincial governments, we are really going to have a challenge having enough qualified technicians to be able to actually execute all of these projects at this scale. So those are some things that the broadband strategy can kind of look at and try to address in anticipation of a build. And what you could be doing right now as a council is thinking about the objective of the broadband deployment or infrastructure. Is this something that you want to do for economic development purposes, for public good? Is it really, to promote work from home or education from home? You need to look at the current digital infrastructure. What's there today? Take that inventory, like that map that I showed you at the beginning, understand where the challenges are and where new developments may be coming. and use that to define who needs the services. Where are the gaps? Or is it schools? Is it residents? Is it township offices? And then what types of services are needed? Are we really just talking about basic internet access? Or are we thinking about mobile wireless services? Or is some kind of Wi-Fi necessary, perhaps in the public parks or public locations? And then finally, looking at what the roadblocks are that may exist today, whether that's in policies or permitting, or even simply the geography of the area. So these are some things that you can start in advance of a service provider showing up in order to understand what types of things you can do to expedite access. When my team comes and builds a broadband strategy, we really have to take this, all-encompassing process of looking at the scope and the geography and the population, figuring out where all of that network needs to go, or assessing the routes, verifying who's already there and where those gaps are, but then engaging the residents and the carriers to understand, how can we solve the problem, which ultimately leads to a design or a plan, and then a document and formal recommendations. But this entire process takes 3 to 6 months. So my messaging to you today is simply that municipalities are more and more needing to think about how to promote broadband, and a broadband strategy is just as important as an economic development strategy. Thank you for your time, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you. So if you can unshare your screen, we can see everybody, and we're open for questions.
Yep.
Thanks, Rob. Member Cox, and then Member Paquette.
Through the chair to Rob, what other municipalities have you worked for? Just curious, and have they, have you been successful in them getting ISP provider, like internet service providers, and have they accomplished, gotten any loans or the grants from the government?
Right. So here, yeah. So here in the province of Ontario, some examples, probably the longest standing one in this space is the city of Stratford, where the mayor back in 2010 decided as part of a build for replacing the power meters, would build a citywide Wi-Fi and fiber network that he would then lease out to local service providers. And they do that under the label Rhizome Networks. It's owned by the power utility that the city owns. So that is, a great example of one that was really successful early on. Since then, though, we've done similar with the power utilities in Sarnia, that's Blue Water Power, in Newmarket, which is NV Networks, and now in Oshawa, which is Durham Broadband. All of those through the city's utility. But some cities don't have utilities, and some don't want to build service providers. So some recent ones we've worked with would include the township of Puslinch, Prince Edward County, and like I said earlier, we're just finishing up with the district of Muskoka. In those cases, good.
Curious, because I know that a lot of them had utilities, and that a lot of people, it wasn't really, it was the utilities that were doing it. So in our case, we would be like the district of Muskoka and Pushlink, that we would be looking for independent service providers to come in and look at what we have. I think up in one of them up there, Muskoka Bay or Lake of Bays, it was Lakeland, I think, came in and was the service provider. It was a very small company, but came in and did them. So that would be the same idea. That comes out, they can come in, they can see where it's at, and then they can go ask for grants from the ICON program.
That's right. Yeah. So for example, in Puslinch, it was really about identifying who are the service providers in town, right, and what are their interests in building so that we could fill gaps. In Prince Edward County, we looked at what would it take to actually build an ISP, but the budget was very large. And once that report was made public by council, it turned out that someone came to build big sections of it.
Thank you very much.
Member Paquette.
Thank you through Madam Chair to Rob, and thank you for the presentation. Were you on when both the minister and MP Chambers were here?
Yes.
Perfect. So I asked the question, and I know I didn't expect an answer because I can't get an answer from anyone. How does, whether it's Swift or any of the providers, know in any one of the townships where they require internet service? Like, how do they go about it? And is that something that your firm does? Like, do you work with the provider when you are allotted the job of looking at one's township or municipality, what their needs are?
Yeah, exactly. So in the District of Muskoka, for instance, we had to figure out where the biggest gaps were in the geography. Certainly theirs is much larger than what we're dealing with here. But, thankfully, every year the service providers report to the CRTC their deployment data, which is what drives what's called the National Broadband Map, or the National Broadband Data. There's always been arguments that it's not necessarily accurate. It's not, completely up to date, but it's the best guess that we have. And that identifies those 250-meter road segments where there are not services equal to or above 50 by 10. So, we do have that level of mapping that's in the public record that's available to anyone who wants it. And the service providers certainly rely on that. There's also information published by CIRA, the Canadian Internet Registry. They have townships that, people do speed tests, and that gets put on a map, and sometimes that's used as well. But yes, the data is available, and then it just needs to be verified locally to see if it really matches reality. And service providers use that all the time to figure out where to build.
Okay, Member Taylor.
I just have a quick, through the chair, a quick question to Rob there. So how do you weigh, everybody wants high-speed internet, but they don't want any towers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tower policy is one section that we deal with quite a bit. There definitely, in some areas, there definitely need to be wireless towers because it's simply not practical to build fiber to those locations. The density of homes is too spread out, or the geography is just too difficult to build. But tower policies need to be constructed in a way that really are working with service providers in order to make them as least intrusive as possible, but also to make sure that they're delivering. And one thing that we've talked about in the past is using land use mechanisms. For instance, if a new development is going to require a park, maybe that park should also require a clock tower to which the wireless equipment could be placed. So yeah, I acknowledge that towers are a challenge for every area, and it really takes an effort to figure out how to do that in a way that's good for the community.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I cut you off, Member Burkett. Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So Rob, I still haven't got an answer. When monies become available, and I heard the minister say the billions that the province is handing out. For example, our area, we're having Cogeco, they're doing an installment to 400 odd homes, but how did they know that area was underserviced? And how did they apply for those funds and allot it to that area?
Right. So again, I come back to that national broadband data. If I am Cogeco, then at the February 28th of every year, I send to the government the maps of the areas that I service and the speed with which I service those areas too. And the CRTC puts all of those together and figures out where there are not service providers providing those services. And that is the information that people use to determine whether it's serviced or unserviced. Again, going on the ground, they still have to go out and drive around to make sure that that's actually the case or not.
So okay, two more questions, and then Allison's giving me the scoop here that we need to start moving on, but two more. Member Paquette, Member Cox.
So your company, Rob, how do you help municipalities like ourselves? And can you bring those service providers when funding is available? Is it an asset? Of course, you're going to say it's an asset, but how does it work? How does it work so that I can feel confident for what your service, how is it going to bring it to our residents?
Right. So first and foremost, it's about figuring out what the local needs are. Every community is slightly different. Again, that could be from demographics to geography, but figuring out what's needed in that community and then figuring out which things may need to change, like policies or procedures, or we talked about tower policies already today. So recommending those things that need to change, and then also opening the dialogue with the service providers that are already in the area and or the ones who might be interested in coming to the area to figure out what it is they need in order to accelerate their timetables to deploy. Sometimes we determine this city should build it themselves. A lot of times we just figure out how to get the service providers engaged in a way that solves the problem.
So supplementary, Madam Chair, just quickly. So you have a rapport with the service providers. Like, are you actually the go-between between the funding and the service providers? Because when the funding becomes available, there's no way they're going to hand the money to the Township of Severn. We're not service providers. So we would have we haven't got the resources to do anything like that. So am I hearing that you are the conduit between and that you could actually bring them to our township based on...
We're advisors, really, to cable companies, telephone companies, and municipalities. We don't stand in the way of the funding. We don't get involved other than helping some service providers submit their applications. In fact, in Puslinch, we ended up helping one submit their application for the Universal Broadband Fund, which they did get awarded on. So sometimes that actually is the way that it works out. But I don't go into any engagement with a predisposition of how it's actually going to turn out.
Okay, Member Cox?
Yeah, I was just going to say, the government puts out the funding, like the ICON program. The approved internet service providers then look and see the areas that they want to be in. Then they send in their application to them, and the last time it was a reverse auction, right? But anyway, they send it in, and then they're looked at, and then, as we all know, soon it's going to be you got it, 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 and then we wait again till the next time. Is that that's how it works, right?
Yeah, but basically, areas get opened up. In the provincial program, there's maps available that they're doing a reverse auction on that we expect to hear from shortly. Who got awarded the dollars? That's right. Okay, so I would like that we take this as information, and that maybe Allison could get it on a upcoming meetings while the information is all still fresh for us, and we can have a good discussion on it. Thank you very much, Rob. That was very informative. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Allison, could you put that motion, please?
Certainly. So the motion actually reads that the delegation from Mr. Rob McCann, Clearcable, regarding building broadband strategy be received, and that staff report back on the matter. I do note that we do have a formally deferred report on this item.
Moved by Member Bettesworth, second by Member McIntyre. All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks, Allison. So we'll move along to C3, OPP quarterly report. And there we are. Mr. Yateman, welcome today.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
So for the quarterly report of October to December 2021, I'll just start from top to bottom. We had 3 sexual assaults that were reported during that quarter. One was cleared by charge, one was insufficient evidence to proceed, and one where the victim requested that no further action be taken. Out of those, 2 were domestic related, and one was a stranger. However, the stranger one was several years ago. With respect to assaults, we had 6 reported sex assaults during that quarter. All 6 were cleared by charge. We had 30 domestic related occurrences. Out of the 37 were criminal investigations, and 6 of the 7 were cleared by charge. Other crimes against persons, we had 5 occurrences. 4 were cleared by charge. 1 was insufficient evidence. And they were in relation to threats, harassments, and 1 being a child abandonment investigation. We had 6 break-and-enters. 3 of those were cleared by charge. 3 were insufficient evidence to proceed. We had 7 theft overs. Unfortunately, those 6 of them were insufficient evidence to proceed, and 1 is still open under investigation. Our theft unders, we had 20 of those. 1 was cleared by charge. They resulted in, or they were related to shoplifts, thefts from motor vehicles, gasoline drive-offs. We had 1 of have stolen goods, where a person was found in possession of a stolen motorcycle, and that was cleared by charge. We had 9 frauds. 3 are still open. 6 were insufficient evidence to proceed. A lot of them result or relation to online frauds, internet scams, money transfer scams, romance scams, and then a couple of credit card frauds. We had 9 mischiefs. 1 was cleared by charge. 1, the victim complainant declined to lay charges, and they were in relation to mischief to vehicles, mischief to property, and 1 being a graffiti incident as well. With respect to our provincial offences notices, we issued 95 provincial offences notices over the 4th quarter. We had 3 focus patrols. The month of October, we were Burnside Line between Division Road and Warminster Road. We issued 3 PONs, 1 warning. We had 28 patrols that month with 31.5 hours. In November, we were on Cambrian Road. 1 PON was issued, 1 warning. 17 patrols with 15.5 hours. And in December, we were Quarry Road between Highway 400 and Upper Big Chute Road. 0 PONs and 0 warnings during 28 hours of patrol.
Wow.
We had 11 and a half hours of foot patrol during that quarter. And we conducted 18 ride occurrences in that 4th quarter. And on a positive note, we had 0 fatal motor vehicle collisions in that quarter. Subject to any questions, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the members? Member Taylor. And then
through to the chair. Good morning, Inspector Yateman. I believe our clerk Allison sent you an email from one of our residents, Nadia Burse, regarding concerns in the Coldwater area of fishy people walking around breaking entries, and they've even had not only in Coldwater but around the rural areas, naming it Silk Line, Lachlan Falls Road, and Upper Big Chute Road. And this is a group that want to get a community watch program going, and I think they've spoken to a few of your constables. But how can we get this thing going off the ground to get the group going, and whether with your help and if the township can help with whatever we can do, but how do you get it going, I guess, and to come up with a game plan on if you see a suspicious character outside your door or window, what do you do? And this could be part of the community watch program. If you could help us out there, would be great.
Absolutely. Community watch programs are very effective, pending that people report it to police. If they're just going to report within amongst another, it does a little bit of awareness in the community, but doesn't typically solve the issues. So we engage our community mobilization unit to connect on this matter. We reviewed it. One of the big aspects that we continually ask for is the reporting of incidents. So if it's a suspicious person, definitely report it. There's mechanisms to report that through our comm center, through online reporting and different other aspects. And if we don't know of these incidents, then we can't direct our patrols. So part of the focus patrols you'll see are a lot of the times heavy on traffic enforcement, but we could do a focus patrol in areas based on whether it's break and enters, whether it's the number of suspicious persons calls. The focus patrols we do not have to be just focused on traffic enforcement. They can be other avenues, but we do look at our calls for service and the areas of those calls for service to adjust our responses. We also take into consideration, obviously, if the township requested us to be in a specific area for a period of time, we would look after that without any analytics. That would be a community need. We would go to that area. So definitely some options, and I would just encourage that those community partners, once they are established, they could again reconnect with us. We would make sure our community mobilization unit comes out, could give them a presentation as to different options for them in terms of contacting us, and also best practices or what to do in certain circumstances.
Allison has her card up.
Perhaps, and just on this line, perhaps Inspector Yateman could send some information on the Community Watch program and what's involved and from their perspective, and then I can circulate that to all the council for their information.
Okay, Member Taylor was supplemental, then it went on to Member Bettesworth, and then it's Member Cox.
Yeah, just through the chair to Inspector Yateman, what's your feeling on that? How effective are the Community Watch signs that go up, either in your window or on roadside?
You know what, there is some effectiveness to it. Of course, I don't know if that can be measured. I don't know if we've ever had any type of value or any type of measurement that we could do to say that because of signs are up in one community, their crime is down, or their break and enters or whatever that is. However, I can say community involvement definitely reduces calls for service and the crime element, right? So the more people that are paying attention and are kind of looking out for each other, the better. And so I'm a believer in it. I'm a supporter of it. And I think I can grab some more information and send it to Allison after this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Member Bettesworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the inspector. I listened with interest as you went over these statistics. For all the fuss and bother and calls and whatnot that I and the mayor received with regard to Division Road at Marshmont School, I did not hear a summary of traffic and or parking violations in that area. Was it missed, or was there just no activities by the police?
So we, when you're talking about Division Road, I do not have those stats in terms of exact enforcement on Division Road. I know our units have been working with your bylaw as well with respect to some parking issues and challenges with speed in those areas, but I do not have the stats for that specific stretch of road.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, I would like those, please, because we get a lot of bother and fuss about people in that area calling us. And I know that the police have put in a fair amount of time there and trying to be efficient with your resources as well. I'd just like to know what the results have been there and whether we need to step up or step back in that area. But thank you very much. I'd appreciate that.
Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair to Inspector Yateman. As far as that Coldwater Community Watch program goes, Nadia's already got it all set up and has talked to the police officers, and she is planning on having a meeting, and she has recruited members, and she has been reporting incidents to them. They have given her that information. So I think we're pretty well off the ground on that. It's just a matter now with the restrictions going back that we can actually have a meeting and do it. And I just like to thank her for all that work because she's gone ahead and finished it all.
Good. Member Burkett.
Good morning through Madam Chair, and good morning, Inspector Yateman. Further to Member Bettesworth's comments, I've been inundated and I haven't had the chance to bring Member Bettesworth up to speed. Your officers have been out there many, many times, and thank you very much for doing that. There is a further concern, and I'm hoping we can all work together. I don't expect an answer now, but I know our bylaw enforcement officer got into a bit of a match with a resident as he gave him 2 tickets as he tried to move him off the road. My concern, and it's all our concern, that crosswalk with the amount of cars that are constantly parking, and as I said to the lady in charge of the committee out there, it's it's the parents that are at fault as much as they think it's not the township that's not doing their job. And I don't know how we're going to fix it. My fear is a child coming out between those cars. There are cars and trucks that are going through that crosswalk only because the area is so busy. They're trying to keep their eyes on everything and they miss it. So maybe we can have that discussion later. I don't expect an answer now, but we are meeting on Monday at 3:00. I don't know if you'll have time this week to come out and join us. And I've been out there many times. I'm sure you've been out there, but again, just to listen to what Vanessa has to say and actually witness what's going on. But our bylaw enforcement officers are going to be there. If you have time, it would be appreciated. And we can come back to council with hopefully some recommendations as to what we can do out there. I just wanted to also comment on this format. This is the first time I've seen this. It's very well done. Is this something that you've come up with? Because I haven't seen this before, the report that you've given us. Like, we've had a report, but this is different from years past.
I'd like to take credit for it, but I cannot. It's as the organization evolves and we're going, taking sort of considerations and input from the communities to adjust our reports. So if there is something that you'd like to see, it does take time, but we can go in that direction.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
And I apologize. Sorry, Monday at 3:00. Where would that meeting be?
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yep.
To Inspector Yateman. We're just going to be out front, just standing without the parents. Actually, we're just going to stand off to the side and just witness what goes on. We'd just like to see again firsthand. I've been many times, and again, my fear is anyone jetting out from in between those cars and a truck or car not being able to stop.
Okay, I'll do my best to be there. I'm pretty sure I can be right now. I'll check my calendar as soon as we're done this conference call.
Member Burkett.
Thank you. Just supplementary, or one other question, if I may, through you, Madam Chair, to Inspector Yateman. I'm just curious, and again, I don't expect an answer now. Maybe if you show up on Monday, we can talk, or maybe you can send me an email later. Shooting that happens within our township, and let's go back, and I know that you've heard about it a million times, back at the end of Carleon, on the way to the Swift. We have people that are shooting freely, and of course, we've had police here telling us that as long as they're shooting in a safe manner, there's really nothing we can do. I'm like, I get it all the time. I haven't gone back to witness it. Like do officers, I know officers are showing up, but is there something we can do to deter these people from doing what they're doing? Or is there nothing we can do?
On a police enforcement side, there's nothing we can do in terms of as long as they're meeting the requirements by the Firearms Act and shooting in a safe direction, etc. On a community side, I'm not 100% sure, and I'd like maybe us to focus on including the Chief Firearms Office potentially for further discussion, that they may be able to provide a little bit more guidance as to what a community could do, if there is anything further that you can do. But the Chief Firearms Office is right here in Aurelia. We could definitely assist in setting up a meeting to go over those, or I could make an inquiry through email and share a response.
If you could do that, please, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
And if you can share that with us all, because I know Member McIntyre is having problems up in his area too. Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair to Inspector Yateman, sorry. I have been getting calls about snowmobilers at Carleon and the Swift Road. Dangerous. There's coming up over hills. They've hit vehicles. Vehicles have swerved. ATVs are now out there. No offense, they called and they're basically said, well, we know there's an issue, but there's not a lot we can do. So I don't know what there is we can do. I don't know if that's another thing that we need to meet. This is a new trail that they've moved, and unfortunately it's not very safe. And anyway, I have a lot of concerns there for the safety of the drivers and the neighbors.
So I've been in personal contact with the president of I don't want to say the Trail Association because that's not the correct term,
Yeah.
but we've had an initial conversation, which I've then engaged our members here to have further discussions to discuss about combined enforcement options in that area,
okay.
As well as any other kind of mitigating factors that we can play into. So all those meetings have just started in the last couple of weeks. Of course, I'm not going to lie, we've had some significant pressures with some other things going on across the province. So I imagine those meetings will commence again here, probably starting early next week, which then I hope you will see some level of enforcement in that area, which should then change behavior.
Further to that, supplemental through the chair, is there any chance that you could let us know about how things went?
I can, for sure, I can ask.
I don't need all the details. I just want to know so that when the residents out there speak to me, I can tell them that we are doing something, that the police and the snowmobile club are working together. That would be really helpful for me.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so if there's no further questions, Allison, do we have a motion?
The motion reads that the fourth quarter 2021 update from Inspector Yateman, OPP, be received for information.
I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Member Taylor, second by Member Bettesworth. All in favor? That's carried. And thank you, Inspector Yateman, for taking your time. We appreciate you keeping us up to date.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You as well.
So we go on to consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they want to pull? Okay, I'm pulling D17 strategic plan and D22 Northern Ontario School of Medicine. Okay, so we will, sorry. Oh, Member Cox.
Sorry, I'm going to pull D21. Sorry, Allison, I thought it was already been pulled.
So you've got that all right, Allison? Okay, so we'll move on down to adoption of regular agenda. Mover and seconder. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, the motion reads the agenda be adopted, including consent items, with the exception of items D1.7, D2.1, and D2.2.
Okay, mover and seconder. Moved by Member Cox, second by Member McIntyre. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, reports from officials for direction. F11.
There he is.
There we are.
Good morning. Thank you. Through the chair. So this is a report for a single source award for the building alarm system that was approved in the 2022 capital budget for the Coldwater District Community Center. Hironi Alarms has provided our alarm systems for multiple facilities throughout township here, and consistency is key, specifically when you're looking at a service provider contract.
Are there any questions? Anybody have any? Okay. Allison, we're going to do separate motions, or we'll put them together for under Derek's?
Each report's its own motion.
Okay, no motion then, please.
Motion reads that Recreation Report number R22-004 dated February 23rd, 2022, with respect to the building alarm system for the Coldwater Arena be received, and further that single source procurement for the purchase of a building alarm system be accepted, and further that the project be awarded to Hironi Alarms in the amount of $19,256.60 plus HST.
Mover and a seconder. Moved by Member Stevens, second by Member Cox. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, Derek, F21.
Thank you very much. The always stop control policy. So around fall last year, we had two back-to-back requests for always stop control. And it was appropriate at that time to consider a policy just to streamline the recommendations from staff to council, but also to align with all other road authorities throughout the province using the Ontario Traffic Manual. So that's what this draft policy does, is it sets both a minor and a major stop control condition. It does require some analysis with a traffic counter. And then the entire recommendation is based on three different things. One, collision history, and an aspect of volume split. And of course, the final one there, which is your, I believe it is a minimum warrant. So whether it meets or not, it's the minimum warrants to even consider.
Okay, are there any questions on that one? Okay, Allison. Oh, sorry, Member Taylor. Member Taylor. Oh.
Yeah, through the chair to Derek, based on the minimum there, like that rolls out what percentage of roads in the township? Like 80%, 90%?
Yeah, through the chair. So 500 vehicles per hour in any 8-hour shift is fairly high. So that's the minimum for an arterial. All other roads in the township are going to be considered in the minor categories. That's the section 3.3. And that would be in any instance. So even the very rural 200 for, somewhere around there vehicles per day. That would be, the majority of the intersections in Severn.
Thank you.
Okay, a motion, please, Allison.
Certainly, the motion reads that Public Works Report number W22-007 dated February 23rd, 2022, with respect to an always stop control policy be received, and further that the proposed always stop control policy be adopted and included in the corporate policy manual.
Okay, mover and seconder. Moved by Member Cox, second by Member Bettesworth. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, going on with Public Works. Derek.
Thank you. So this report is regarding the motor grader profile packer, which is a device added to our existing grader equipment to enhance the gravel resurfacing programs that we've sort of enhanced over the last couple of years. This provides an immediate compaction thereafter. It was approved in our 2022 capital budget. And this particular model offers the profile in this an articulating mechanism, which is above any other provider that we've seen to date. And so we're looking for a single source award in the amount of $35,000 to Brandt Tractor, who's the area dealer of this particular product.
Okay, Member Bettesworth.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just think you would need to make a little adjustment, if my math is right, on your financial considerations portion there. That doesn't add up.
So through the chair, it may not add up only based on the non-recoverable HST. Municipal governments don't pay the entire portion of traditional HST. So the exceedance there of $1,125 is about 1.76% in addition to the $35,500.
Nice answer. Thank you.
Member Cox.
Through the chair to Derek. Derek, thank you very much. This is going to be wonderful. It will really help us out on those gravel roads. Thank you.
For sure.
Motion, please, Allison.
Certainly, the motion reads that Public Works Report number W22-009 dated February 23rd, 2022, with respect to the motor grader profile packer be received, and further that single source procurement for the purchase of the attachment be accepted, and further that the project be awarded to Brandt Tractor Ltd in the amount of $35,500 plus HST, and further that the budget deficiency be refunded from the roads equipment vehicle reserve.
Mover and a seconder. Moved by Member Stevens, seconded by Member Cox. All in favor? And that's carried. One more, Derek. Public Works streetlight.
All right, thank you. And through the chair, so the streetlight request that was received back, I think it was just earlier or later part of last year, we did forward to the county, and the county performed an inspection because it is their intersection for a lighting warrant. They provided that analysis in the appendice. At this time, it remains unwarranted from the county's perspective and policies. Staff are in alignment with the county and recommending that this request be denied.
Any Member Taylor, then Member Cox.
Through the chair to Derek, like this was brought to our attention. It's dark when the kids are waiting there for the school bus. It's a very busy highway. And I think it's warranted that we, like you mentioned, there's 38 other intersections through it, but we have to go case by case. And I believe this is money well spent, and there's been no fatalities there. And what is a fatality worth? So I would support putting this in. I think it's we have to go above and beyond. And one of our residents pointed this out to us, and we should do the best we can to minimize any potential accident there.
Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair to Derek. Derek, this isn't about traffic. This is about children standing in the dark on the side of the highway at 6:30, 6:45 in the morning, and no one can see them. And they're crossing the road to go there to wait for that bus. And I know that that's winter, but still that is dangerous. And that's only 6 this time. And with more building going on up there and that new subdivision coming in, there will be more. And it's a safety issue. And even for the cars coming down the hill, I talked to Miss Kennedy about it. Those cars coming down the hill at that hour in the morning, sometimes they don't even see those kids standing there. And we all know children do not wear anything that looks like it should have orange big X's on it or bright yellow. So I believe that this is something we should be looking at and putting in ourselves just for the safety of it.
Okay, I would speak on the safety side. We've got 6 or 7 kids, or how many are going to go, or how many are going now. They're out there, we know, and it isn't just boys, push each other around in snowbanks and have fun waiting for the bus. And this is not going to end with a group of kids that are there now. And I think for the amount of money we're asking for, it's well worth it, and I would support it 100%. Member McIntyre?
Through the chair, I was by there last evening, as it happens, and I haven't been in the morning, but I will say it's a very dark corner. It's a street light. I think if the residents are wanting a street light, it's a very minimal amount of money. The safety of the children is more important than anything here. It's first and foremost. I'd be in favor of going off the board with the county and saying, yes, we need a street light there and we should fund it.
Okay, sounds like we need a motion, Allison.
So I guess I have one question for council. So staff, thinking that this might be the way this went, came prepared with a motion that it be included in the 2023 budget, as the 2022 budget has already been approved. So I'm just looking for direction from council as to whether or not that's what they want. Or
Member Taylor.
I'm hoping that we could get it in this year before school starts up in September, if it does start up.
Member Cox.
Yeah, I would agree, because sure, it's not going to be too bad now because we got the daylight. It's going to start in October. And unfortunately, we don't do our budget until November. So it won't get up until the following year, and it'll be kind of late then.
Member McIntyre?
Through the chair, I agree with members Taylor and Cox. I'd like to get it in this year if we could. So September's daylight, but I mean, it's going to carry through to the spring and the fall of next year. It's still, my view, is too dark. So I'd agree with the other 2 members.
And I also agree with that. So maybe we could change the motion. Even if we agreed with, if it was held over to the 2023, you're not going to get it in during the winter because of the weather. So I would say, let's work on it. Let's get it in the budget. We've got to be able to find that 20 somewhere and get these kids safe. Member Briquette.
Thank you, through Madam Chair, to Derek. Have they come out with a solar activated streetlight yet?
Through the chair, manufacturers and technology in street lighting has advanced immensely. There are solar options. There are smart devices. The city of Orillia has every street light they own on a app. It'll tell them when it's on. They can dim them. They can base it on vehicular loads, things like that. I don't think we want to go there yet as a network. We'll probably just put a regular street light up, but there are awesome technology advancements in streetlight networks.
Yes, Member Briquette.
supplementary, Madam Chair, if I may, to Derek, what's the difference in cost, Derek, between a regular street light like we're looking for here versus one that's solar activated?
Yeah, through the chair. Now, solar, so that cost is not something I have readily available, but I can report back. But generally speaking, solar powered does work in environments where there's lack of access to the grid. This area is not necessarily unaccessed by the grid, and so it would long-term benefit would be better to connect to an unscattered and metered load rather than doing a solar installation in this particular event.
Thank you.
Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair, I still want to approve this. And is there an existing post that it can go on? And/or I would really like letter to go back to the county to tell them I'm very impressed with all their little traffic triangles, as you well know, Derek, and all their little things. But this isn't about traffic. This is about children not being safe. And I think they need to understand that. And I don't see why they couldn't kick in something, because I thoroughly believe that the people up there they've already asked if they could do a petition if this wasn't going to go through. And I really believe that the county has to understand this isn't about a car pulling out. This isn't about those. It's safety of children.
Got that, Derek?
Yep.
Okay.
For sure.
Allison, you maybe have a motion now.
Yes, so the motion reads that Public Works Report number W22-006 dated February 23rd, 2022 regarding streetlight request, Festerton Side Road and County Road 16 be received, and further that the streetlight request be approved and that staff proceed with the installation as soon as possible. So, and then I just have a directive note at the bottom that the preference is that be installed before the fall school year starts.
Thank you. Moved by Member Taylor, second by Member Cox, all in favor? And that's carried. So we're going to head into fire, and I think we'll do fire and then we'll stop and we'll have a break then, okay? Maybe 15 minutes. And that would cover our lunch because we've got lots more to go through. Okay, there's our chief. Welcome, Chief Cranny. F31 911.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a report in regards to 911 call taking. We have an agreement with the City of Aurelia to provide 911 call taking for the Township of Severn. They're being mandated by the Canadian Radio and Television Commission to upgrade their infrastructure. And they are seeking our assistance, as well as a number of other municipalities they provide the service to provide some support and helping them provide the cost to upgrade this system. It's going to cost between $265,000 and $300,000, and Severn's portion of this would be between $38,000 and $43,000. So we're seeking council's endorsement to go back to the City of Aurelia and approve this. And the budget, it would be taken from the 2023 budget.
Any questions? Okay, a motion, please, Allison.
Certainly. So the motion reads that fire report number F22-001 dated February 23rd, 2022 with respect to Next Generation 911 be received, and that committee endorse the request from Aurelia Fire for cost sharing for the upgrade of the 911 infrastructure, and further that the Township of Severn's portion of the upgrade be funded from the 2023 budget.
Mover and seconder. Moved by Member Becksworth, second by Member Briquette. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, on to the next one, Chief. Administrative Officer Evaluation, or is that you, Michelle? There she is. Hi, Michelle.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. So before you, we have the report on the CAO evaluation process. That has been working out very well. We did partner in the beginning with the town of Penetanguishene. We're just asking in this report at this point to remove this section dealing with partnering with another municipality. We have found that that has become pretty labor intensive for staff. And I feel that we have a very good working relationship with the CAO, the current council, and myself. I think that we can deliver a fair and equitable evaluation for the CAO without partnering.
I'd agree with you. I know the first year it was important. when we all didn't really know each other that well, but I think moving forward, we've got a good working relationship. Member Taylor.
I just have a question through the chair to Michelle. So do we still continue the 6-month one, or why don't we go to an annual review like everybody else?
Through the chair, if council wishes to do something like that, we certainly can. We would need to amend the policy further, but I believe the policy at 6 months is just a touch base. See, Lori has her hand up as well.
Okay,
it's a touch base to see where she is with goals and things, but I'll let Lori speak on that.
Lori.
Chair, Michelle has it quite right. It's just a touch base to tell the committee of the day where I am on goals. And I appreciate it because there will be years that I won't get my goals done because something like COVID has come up and pushed me a different way. So I don't want to get to the end and let council know I'm not hitting my goals. I want to talk about it midway to agree that if they need to be adjusted. So I find it a valuable exercise.
Member Taylor.
I concur with that. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Allison? Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Motion reads that administration report number A22-006 dated February 23rd, 2022 be received, and further that HR policy number 77 CAO evaluation be amended to remove partnering with another municipality as part of the evaluation process.
Mover and seconder. Moved by member Becksworth, second by member McIntyre. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, we're moving on now to noise bylaw. Cody, welcome.
Morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, my report today is regarding a proposed noise bylaw for the Township of Severn. Some of the highlights on consistently prohibiting noise within the township would be things such as stereos, boom boxes, radios, any electric sound emitting device. So from Monday to Thursday, we would be looking from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. the following morning. And then from Friday through to Sunday, we would be looking at 11 p.m. to 9 a.m. As well as firearms would be 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. Monday through Thursday, and then 9 p.m. To 9 a.m. Friday through Sunday. And then we're also looking at things like construction and construction equipment and the noises that come from those associated things. Again, would follow sort of the same process of 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. Monday through Thursday and 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. Friday through Sunday, as well as things that have come up from short-term rentals that have really brought this to light. Excessive noise such as hooting, hollering, noise created by excessive partying, that sort of thing. We would prohibit all times. So essentially, if it's whether it's at noon or 2 a.m., if it's excessive noise generated from a large gathering or people being together, we would prohibit it at all times. And then we would move into things like lawn equipment and power equipment, which we would regulate from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. Monday through Sunday. So every day is what we would proposing to deal with, as well as implementing an exemption process so that if someone is looking to throw a birthday party and they're thinking it's going to go later into the nighttime, they would be able to submit a application to the township clerk and on most cases be granted an exemption to allow it for that specific event. And then it also allows us to be aware of what those exemptions are for. So if we do get calls regarding any of the noise, we have the ability to actively educate them that they do have an exemption and what that timeline looks like that the noise should be stopping at. And if it continues past a certain time, we would look at enforcement from that point on.
Okay, questions? Allison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few other points that I'd like to make council aware of. This is an entirely new bylaw for the township. So we do have a bit of a communications plan to try and get it out should council become aware of it, that I've worked with our communications officer on in the last 24 hours. The other thing I just want to remind council about is that noise bylaws are notoriously difficult to enforce. We do hope to have summer students this year. So that will help because they will be working evenings and weekends. That said, a lot of it happens before we can get there or in hours when we just are on the other side of the township. It's a large municipality for us to get from point A to point B when we do get a complaint, because we could be over near Port Severn and the complaint comes in from somewhere up near West Shore, right? And there's only so fast we can get there. So often it does rely on neighbors willing to sign affidavits or take photos, things like that, that we can use in court. And I've been down that path a couple times. And normally when that happens, the neighbors aren't great friends to start with, but it does help. The exemption process is really there to help when you have stuff like backyard weddings, because those are increasing in number. So just to make sure that if someone wants to have their backyard wedding go till 2 or 3 in the morning, then we have that exemption process in place. And we can give a list to the OPP to say, if you receive a noise complaint from this address, then unless it's drunk and disorderly, you can kind of avoid that address for us. We are working to strengthen our relationship with the local OPP so they can work with us on this. Inspector and did review the draft bylaw before it was brought to council today, as did our solicitor. So,
okay, it was Member Taylor and then Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair to Allison and or Cody, I got three points or questions. Like what about other noise, like a brass band, trumpets, bagpipes, drums? Like they're not all from boom boxes.
It's entirely, we can, through you, Madam Chair, it's entirely up to council what we wish to cover. There are some municipalities that choose to try and cover musical instruments. There's some that don't. Given that this was our first crack at a noise bylaw for Severn, we wanted to focus in on what we've received complaints on, which is largely the partying. And we do receive complaints about the lawn equipment, especially in cottage areas where houses are quite close together and someone's mowing their lawn at 6 in the morning, right underneath their neighbor's window, pretty much, or the hunting things. So we've somewhat focused in on what staff receive complaints on, but we can add musical instruments if council would like.
Yeah, I just think that there's other forms of noise that you've missed here. And this is the beginning. The other one, speaking of noise, you've never mentioned decibel level here. That what is noise? What is there a level that can be used there?
Allison, you continue.
Thank you. So
I want Cody to
decibel,
speak eventually.
yes, decibel readings are notoriously difficult to deal with. So before staff, if we wanted to gauge stuff by decibel readings, and there are some places that do, we would have to get the required equipment. Staff would have to attend training, and then they would have to be present in order to read that. Our solicitor did not deem it necessary, considering how hard it is to enforce the noise bylaw in general. So he thought our provisions as stated that just says this shall not happen between these hours was sufficient enough for enforcement.
Okay.
One more, Mark, but CEO has the flag up.
I would like to see CEO speak, and then I got the third one.
Perfect.
I just wanted to speak to Member Taylor's decibel. I have been involved in places that do decibels, and it's very difficult. Typically reserved for something specific, like for example, Springwater has a gun club that causes a lot of noise complaints. So they do a decibel level there, and they do have the equipment and the training, and they are there at certain times, but it's impossible in a municipality this big to do sort of general decibels. It just wouldn't work.
But a good idea. Member Taylor?
And just the last one, if Cody and or Allison could go over the penalties, like how 15.2 and 15.3, can you see us giving a ticket for $100,000 on a second offense? Here, I just don't know what would be a typical fine. Like you have a maximum of 50,000 and 100,000. What is it? How do you pick them?
Who wants to take that answer?
That one?
Cody.
Thank you, through the chair. So we would have to apply for a set fine schedule, which we would attach to, again, things like firearms. So we would break it down into individual penalties depending on if it's a stereo. The set fine, for example, could be $800. If it's firearms, it could be $1,000. It would be numbers and amounts that we would coordinate between council and staff to figure out what we want those appropriate numbers to be. These are just what a total maximum conviction could be up to 25,000 or 50,000, as well as if these tickets are ever challenged in court, the court would have the ability to raise that fine amount to those numbers as well, as a judge or justice of the peace would see fitting.
So Mark or Allison, so you both have your cards up there.
I think Allison was first.
Okay.
So just following up on Cody said, typically most fines for something like a boom box or thing like that would probably be somewhere around $250. The more severe the penalty has to be tied to the more severe the incident. So some obstruction of an officer tends to be one that's significantly higher. Ones dealing with firearms tend to be higher than just general noise. So it really does vary. It is up to the Ministry of the Attorney General to approve the set fines that we submit. So they do have to be reasonable when we submit them. But if you had where the maximum fines come in there of 25,000 or up to 50 and subsequent convictions afterwards, tend to happen when you have a problem property, or if you finally take them to court and you have a track record with them and they've seen multiple fines and the justice is, why are you here again? I'm not reducing it. I'm going to increase it. You're going to have a higher penalty, or it could be on a first offense. What has occurred is of such significance that we need to ask for the higher fine rather than just running with what is an existing set fine. So I hope that helps answer Councillor Taylor's question.
Supplemental?
Yeah, just through the chair, just wrapping up. So we'll see more. You're going to come through with a suggested fines for the appropriate offense, and then so that this is going to be evolving process to build this bylaw up then, right? Through
you, Madam Chair. Typically staff don't come through with our set fines to council because they're for existing bylaws. So what we will do this time is we will draft the set fine schedule, and for council's reference, we will attach it to the bylaw to, if council approves this, to go through the regular council agenda at the next meeting. So when you see the bylaw listed under bylaws, we will attach the proposed set fine schedule. Not necessarily for council's approval because it's subject to the Ministry of Attorney General, but if council has questions or would like to see one higher, then council can pull the bylaw for a quick discussion and advise us at that point.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
It was Member Cox and then Member McIntyre.
Yeah, through the chair to Allison, I guess, because you had said that. You said that because we have summer students, we would be on the weekend. We're not talking about summer students going out on this, are we? To loud noises at parties?
So there's two parts to that, right? So through Madam Chair, drunken disorderlies will forever be the dominion of the OPP.
Right.
So our staff will not be responding to drunken disorderlies. However, if we just hear a incident and staff are still working, that, you know, there's significant loud music, then they absolutely can attend. If they feel that it's not safe for them to enter the property, then they will call the OPP to attend. And those are safety protocols that we put in place on our site.
Excellent. Yeah, and the other one supplemental is I've had residents tell me that when they have called in the past about noise, the police say, well, Severn doesn't have a noise bylaw, so there's nothing we can do. So now we do have a noise bylaw. Does that mean that they will help us out with that and go to those noise calls late at night?
Through you, Madam Chair. So having spoken with Inspector Yateman on this, provided they have officers available, they will attend. Okay. Again, they could be elsewhere within the area, so they can't guarantee that they'll be available, as with any situation. But they did review the draft bylaw, and we had them do that intentionally so that they're aware of what is proposed. So,
okay, thank you very much.
Member McIntyre.
Through the chair, I can't imagine what kind of noise would have to take place for us to have a $25, $50, $100,000 fine. I see the Supreme Court of Canada in our future if we start doling out or requesting these kind of issues. For Cody and Allison to review the fine structure and the repetition of offenders would be, I think, more prudent than throwing a big number out like that. I mean, nobody's going to take that very serious. You know, I played my radio too loud. It's $100,000. So I think the shakedown of the numbers would be more prudent than the big number. That scare number is not going to give anybody a fright. The Supreme Court will be happy to hear from us, I'm sure.
Allison?
Thank you. So 2 pieces there. For the most part, with very, 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 very extreme exceptions, I'm going to say the 99.9% will just get a standard set fine of whatever that is, being $250 or $500 or whatever that set fine schedule is approved at. It's a pretty exceptional circumstance that takes it to that level. And it's normally going to come with a lot of documentation. It's got to go before a judge and all that type of stuff. So it's not something that happens quickly. But 99.9% of the time, it'll just be a quick set fine ticket that'll be handed out when the officer or staff attend.
Member McIntyre,
supplementary through the chair to Allison. We'd almost have to have a Burroughs Creek noise factor going on in the township to get to the big numbers. I just think they're not realistic numbers, and I'd really rather have a proper assessment of the fines. I do agree with the 250 and then graduate it upward and so on, but big numbers is just not a realistic thing for me.
Allison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just for council's reference, the clauses that Councillor McIntyre pointed out, being the penalty sections, are actually quite standard across most of our bylaws to have them as that exceptional circumstance backup, which is more what they're intended to be. They're saying, you know, we're going to run with the set fines most of the time, but if something like a Burroughs Creek were to happen with no notice that we get a call about, then we do have that as a backup. So that's how that operates. It's not meant to be applied in the 99.9% of the time. Those are the set fines. But clauses like that are quite standard. And if you looked at most of our bylaws, they're going to have similar ones across most of them.
Thank you.
So I have 2 questions. Oh, sorry, Member Betsworth, you go ahead.
A little levity in all of this, Madam Chair. I didn't think that Member McIntyre and myself can agree with restricting bagpipes, really.
Oh, hi.
Sorry.
Hey, Johnny.
So the timelines that you've got, 9 in the morning, that's during the week, right?
9 at night.
Yes.
It's
so
9.
it's,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, so through the chair, we would be looking at 9 p.m. until 7 a.m. during the week, and then 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. From Friday to Sunday, except for things like stereos, the hooting and hollering, the partying and whatnot. We would extend into the later Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights. So it would be 11 p.m. to 9 a.m.
I guess I misunderstood when we were, I know they're here, but I thought at 9 in the morning, I thought, well, what do we do with our construction people that start before 9? Then the other thing is, if I'm going to have a party and I'm going to get an exemption from you, why would the neighbors not be let know? Like, okay, I got an exemption, I'm a good guy, and all of a sudden this party goes wild and the neighbors start yelling. Why would the neighbors, like within so many meters, not be let know that this party is going to happen? Allison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Part of that we can make as part of the permit requirements for the homeowner obtaining the permit to do that. Some of these requests I expect to come fairly last minute, so it's not realistic for us to be able to put something in the mail because it might not get there in time.
That's as long as somebody does, because I don't think it's fair to do this and then go, well, we have an exemption, too bad.
Yeah.
Go back to that good neighbor policy, and I think that's one of them right there.
Yeah, so we can build that in as a requirement and condition of the permits when they go out. Just while I have the floor for 1 second here, one thing I should mention is that you'll notice in the staff report that a large contingent of the enforcement here outside of OPP is summer student contingent, or unless the neighbor is willing to provide affidavits and stuff on Cody being able to follow up during the day. We, at this point, have not received any applications for our enforcement summer student positions. So if anyone knows anyone out there who might be interested, we would encourage you to plug them along. Yeah, at this point, enforcement is, we keep trying and we'll keep looking and we'll keep posting till we get someone, hopefully, but a large piece of the enforcement of this is dependent on those summer students.
Does it have to be a student?
That is how we've budgeted, and that is how, and I mean, I believe that's how sometimes we get our grant funding, is that the students have to be students.
Okay. No, I was thinking like, and it doesn't have to be like a retired police officer, retired at 50, and he's like, I want a summer job. Have at it. So, but it has to be, so it's through grant money.
That's so oftentimes the summer student grant funds are contingent upon it being someone returning to post-secondary. So.
Okay. So then what I'm hearing from you is we don't ratify this till next week. So if we have any more input, we can pull it next week and talk about it.
You can always pull anything from the bylaw listing at any point in time for further discussion.
Yeah. So. Okay. Anything further on this? Okay, Allison.
Thank you. So, one moment to switch screens here. The motion reads that administration report number 822-009 dated February 23rd, 2022 regarding a noise control bylaw be received, and that the proposed noise bylaw be approved and brought forward to the next meeting of council.
Mover and a seconder. Moved by member Bettesworth, second by member Taylor. All in favor? Okay, it's carried. Cody, we're on to parking. And Allison.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to handle this one and then Cody can fill in. Derek might be part of this conversation as well. The report before you is a bit of a three-prong report, as you'll notice. So the first one that we heard loud and clear was that there's continual reports and issues of congestion with parking, in particular seasonal areas where the roads can be a little narrow because they were built before today's standards were adopted. And you see that quite regularly in cottage areas. So one thing that we do have in place are most of the provisions that we need. So can't park within a certain amount of an intersection. You can't park on a roadway in excess of 48 hours. In particular, you can't park on a roadway that leaves less than a certain amount, so 10 feet of the width of the roadway for free movement of vehicular traffic. And all those provisions already have existing set fines in place. So what staff are looking to do is just increase those set fines and be a little more proactive in its approach to ticketing. So that's one piece. The other piece that staff would like to add that's not in the staff report, just should the report be approved, is we'd like to add a provision in that says you cannot park on your septic system. Huh. So we thought that would be, and it is a bigger issue on smaller lots along the seasonal area as well, right? Where the septic beds, as you saw only last week, sometimes are being parked on. So we'd like to add that provision as well. And that folks, we do have the provision in place right now in the bylaw that people must park within the area designated on their property. But right now the bylaw stipulates that it has to be within the lined area. And some of these properties, it's just a dirt driveway instead of paved. It's not lined, or some folks use brick down the side to outline the edge of their driveway. We just like to remove the requirement that it has to actually be like paved or marked as such. So because everyone generally knows where their driveway is, so you're required to park in your driveway. And those provisions are already in our bylaw. So we just need to tidy them up a bit, and then they're pretty much ready to go. And we'd send off again an application to the Attorney General's office to increase our set fines. Did you want to do questions as we work through the report, or?
Sure. I question, how can you tell somebody they can't park in their septic bay when it's their private property?
Well, it's one of those ones where if they do, they take the chance. But the challenge is that if they start causing issues with septic leakage, and it starts affecting their neighbors, then we have a significant problem, right? So
I think it would be a hard one to enforce.
It's not going to be an easy one to enforce, and I grant you that. So
because that's my private property, and yeah, okay, that was just a comment. Member Cox and then Member Burkett.
Through the chair to Allison. It says here, staff recommend the application be submitted to increase and those at 50 be increased. What are you increasing them to? Are you talking about the 2-hour parking in Coldwater that's at 50 now? It's going to be increased?
I believe so. Cody, can you
help me out there? It's 50 now.
And then the ones where the 50, the existing 50 would be higher is stuff like parking in an accessible parking spot.
Okay.
When you don't have a permit, that type of stuff would be increased, which is quite normal. I mean, the parking set fines haven't been increased in quite some time. So
and as far as that septic one, I thought about that too, but then I thought, well, you know what? It's probably very handy for short-term rental parties, because then you could go in and go, because they don't own it and they don't care, and you can just tell them you're not allowed to park on that septic. So that could be very helpful. That's the only time I'd see it probably ever utilize it would be at a short-term rental place that has too many people there and they've jammed them on top of a septic tank, which would be helpful to be able to get them out of there. Thank you.
I would like to check that one with a lawyer before I put that in a bylaw.
Will do.
Thank you. I think Member Burkett, you're kind of dark there.
I can't. Okay. Through you, Madam Chair. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I think we were moving forward with a parking bylaw based on short-term rentals and what they were doing to some of our streets, were we not? And if that, I didn't see anything in the report, but if that's the case, I would like to know how we get no parking signs along some of the roads that are narrow. And I'll give you an example, Washago, for example, where there are short-term rentals, and we may have 10 or 12 cars that have now taken up the road. And how do we address that in this bylaw?
Laurie has her card up. Laurie or Allison or Cody, whoever wants to go first.
Sorry, I wanted to circle back to the last one about the septic. I was just corresponding with Nick offline, and he said it's, the word isn't illegal, but it's prohibited by the building code to park on your septic. So that is an actual thing that we can enforce.
Okay, good. Perfect. Oh, there's Derek.
Oh. Through the chair, if I can respond to Mayor Burkett's question.
Yes.
So for narrow roadways where there may not be sufficient shoulder for both sided lane parking, the provision still stands that in the event that that happens, the restriction quantity, that 10 feet, the minute it is exceeded, one of those vehicles are going to get a ticket. And so I don't know if it necessarily, it's kind of like the posted speed limits where we have de facto posted speed limits. We don't post signs where it applies to all roadways. It would be an exorbitant amount of signage. It would be a maintenance nightmare. And it would add to a lot of the confusion, if you will, or distraction within the roadway. So no, it's not our intent to post every road that's, of a substandard width with a parking restriction sign.
Member Burkett.
Supplementary through you, Madam Chair, to Derek. Thank you, Derek. So let's Lakeside, for example. So if they're parking down on Lakeside, you're telling me, and that would be more than the 10 feet, we could just go in and ticket them, and if they so choose not to leave, we can tow them. Is that what you're saying, without having a no parking sign there?
That's right. As long as the provision has been broken where they're not providing adequate width for the traveled portion of the roadway, then yes, the bylaw enforcement officer can levy the charge under those premises.
So Cody's waving over here.
Yes, go ahead. The chair. So just on what Derek said, exactly. If they're restricting that travel portion and they're in any parking violation, that gives me, or again, the summer students, the ability to issue a ticket. And then if the vehicle doesn't move for said 3 days, that would give us the ability to eventually tow it from the roadway. But like Derek said, we don't necessarily need the signage everywhere. It's just a matter of through patrols, complaints, those sort of things, we would be able to write more tickets on these weekends that we know these short-term rentals are packing vehicles everywhere, whether it's on the road or over septics and parking where they shouldn't be. We don't necessarily need the signage there. We just need to essentially do our enforcement, our patrols, and any vehicle that's breaking one of those parking violations would be issued a ticket.
So,
Member Briquette.
Supplementary, Madam Chair, through you to Cody. So Derek's 10 feet. What's he measuring? The 10 feet of the roadway that's remaining? Because a car isn't 10 feet wide. So I'm just confused as to where the 10 feet comes in. Maybe
no, I'm here. Sorry about that. Through the chair. Yeah. So the 10 feet restriction that's in our bylaw is a cleared section. So what we're looking for is if you were to park on the shoulder of the road, that you wouldn't encumber the lane by any less, that you wouldn't restrict the lane to a width less than 10 feet. Okay. So 10 feet is a relatively large vehicle. It's actually larger than most permitted available on the Highway Traffic Act. So that's the maximum vehicle width, and we want to make sure that one vehicle width at least can travel throughout township. If you think about fire emergency services, the last thing we want is Lakeside Drive, have dual parking either sides, restricting the lane to less than 10 feet, and Tim and his team can't get through the road. That's what we're trying to prevent.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Member Taylor.
Yeah, through the chair to Allison or Cody, I read there that there won't be policing or inspection like during the daytime. So is that implying that you'd chalk a vehicle today, and if it's there tomorrow, you know it's violated the parking? Is that how I read that?
So I believe, Councillor Taylor, you jumped ahead of me there on the staff report. So if I can get you to hold on to that piece with respect to the parking enforcement in general, that would be great.
I can hardly wait.
So perhaps moving on in the staff report. So part 2 of this is dealing with parking enforcement across our park stocks and various township amenities. So as everyone's very aware, last year we did the parking permit system up in Washago, but generally we haven't done much in the way of parking enforcement across our docks, recreation amenities, other park spaces, etc. Staff had a look at what was driving the parking enforcement in Washago. Do we really want to be still in that business after or during 2022 or further years? And is it a benefit to the township long term? So the township wasn't in the business of having any parking restrictions during the day prior to last year. And staff really are of the mind that it encourages local business to be able to have parking nearby during the day, whether it's in our parks or on our streets. So they can take advantage of local businesses, drop some money off in the local stores, that type of stuff. However, we don't necessarily think we're in the business of providing overnight parking to people so that they can leave their car and trailer near our boat launches so they can go across to their islands or to their cottages. There are private parking lots that they can take advantage of that, again, if they were using, would support a local business or a local marina, which is where those access points should be if they're using overnight or need overnight moorage. So with that said, staff are looking to focus in on prohibiting overnight parking and getting back to doing daytime, permitting it everywhere. I do note that the Township of Remuneration is maintaining their existing system. But their system is a bit of a mix. So they have free parking in some areas, they have paid parking in others, and they have no parking in some small lakes. The City of Abeyance has yet to make up their mind what they're doing for next year. But again, we were only doing the parking permit system for Washago. So this is an approach that we're looking to adopt across the entire township. When it comes to overnight enforcement, Councillor Taylor is correct, is that we would look to go and chalk tires and then come back in the morning on the weekends and see if the cars are still there. So that is how that overnight parking piece is enforced. So I guess that's that piece. So staff at this point are looking to do more of a focus on overnight parking rather than daytime enforcement, which would mean that we would not be at this point in time doing any sort of permit parking system for Washago going into 2022.
Oh, so Member Taylor has another question then.
Yeah, I just with the two parking lots, one being Tea Lake and one at Severn Falls, there is a sign, or was a sign, that's 7-day parking there so that in fact the people can leave their car and trailer there on the parking lot. With Doug Smith Drive, it's 4-hour parking. So that's one place that work. But are you saying this would apply to parking lots or just roadways?
Perhaps the Director of Public Works can respond to that one.
Eric, you've got your hand.
Certainly, and thank you through the chair. Our initial thought was that this would be broad-based throughout all municipal parking lots in Severn. So what we have is we have a number of parking lots that act as daytime parking for access to primarily recreation-based services, thinking the arena, our local parks, the few docks that we have and so on. Those areas end up often becoming a staging area for contractors, or somebody's got a bum wheel on a trailer, and lots of things end up overnight. It's not our business. Our business is to provide access to the recreation amenities that we have and are open during the day and are generally closed at night. So that was our intent, was to broad base it across every parking lot that we have, put up additional signage and look for enforcement. Not providing what we weren't thinking was our style is to look for paid parking and restricting parking to those amenities that we've invested heavily in and developed over the years. For example, Washago Community or Centennial Park.
Member Cox and Member Burkett. You're muted.
Through the chair to Derek. Well, now you got me totally confused here, because that parking lot at the community center is for the apartment people on the main street of Coldwater, and they park there overnight, so they don't park on the street, so they don't get a ticket. So they can't do that anymore. I thought it was just like I established in my mind that it was just like the fairgrounds you can't park in, or you can't park at Doug Smith Drive or something. But those public lots that we have in Coldwater, and I don't think there's a public lot in Washago, those are utilized by apartment dwellers that don't have any other place to park.
Through the chair, it isn't and it isn't. I mean, to a certain extent, those parking lots are there for the arena. And so if we had an abundance of parking from apartment dwellers or other long-standing, a good example is actually Hamilton Street. We got Hamilton Street that has on-street parking that's been consistently used by apartment dwellers in an overnight fashion. And what it does is it takes away the ability for the motoring public, which is really who we serve, to pull over, stop, and enter the downtown and access the services that are there. The zoning bylaw, the development, I mean, Andrea might be on the line, or Katie, to discuss some of the parking provisions that we make mandatory in site plan control to provide your own parking. It is very critical in these site developments where they provide their own parking. They do not rely on public parking because public parking, for instance, in the middle of winter, we do need to be empty overnight so that we can plow. And so those are examples where we can't offer long-standing overnight 24/7 parking because we also need to perform maintenance on that parking, and we're unable to coordinate individually with apartment dwellers on that.
So supplemental. Would that not be considered a grandfather? Because no offense, we have been telling those people for years, don't park in the main street, go park in the public parking.
Through the chair, I mean, we can cordon an area off, but it won't get winter control services. I think they're
there now. I don't know if they've affected it now. I mean, I'm not a plow driver, so I don't know. I'm just saying that might be something we need to look at for that one area anyway.
Yeah, through the chair, generally speaking, these parking lots remain empty in the middle of the night. Yeah. So I believe there are sufficient parking in some of those apartments that are on Michael Ann backing onto Coldwater Road that are able to park in the area designated on their own private property. Maybe some tenants don't have a car or need parking. They're in a dense urban area. We're not seeing a lot of overnight parking, but we do want to physically restrict it via this bylaw.
I agree with Derek on that. If you've got an apartment building and you're charging rent, then the Township of Severn shouldn't have to supply you with a parking lot. And I know that came up when that new apartment was going up between the arena and the laundromat. I don't think we should have to do it. But anyway, I guess they take their chances. Member Burkett.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm surprised Member Taylor hasn't said anything, but I'm struggling with this one on the 3 municipal parking lots we have out in Severn Falls, one at Tea Lake, one in Severn Falls, and of course the one at, I forget the name now.
Big Rock.
No, the one that only has a 4-hour parking limit, right in Severn Falls.
That's right.
Thank you.
No, that's what I already mentioned that earlier. That
I know, and I'm struggling with this one because now you're telling me that those parking lots are full. And yes, they're not our residents, but it's been fairly quiet back there and there's been no disruptions whatsoever. I know that this bylaw is going to blanket the whole township, but how do we get around what these 3 parking lots that we have back there? And it's been for years that they've been using them.
Member Taylor, and then we'll take it to the staff.
Yeah, through the chair, I already mentioned I was waiting for it to get through round 1, but to me, it should apply to Doug Smith Drive because that's a road and we already have it posted 4 hours, but there was a sign at Severn Falls that said 7-day parking, and I don't think it's ever been enforced. So I can't see this applying to both Tea Lake and Severn Falls. It shouldn't.
Yeah. Cody's waiting. Got an answer there?
Yes, through the chair. So that parking lot in Severn Falls, I have numerous times towed many vehicles and trailers out of those parking lots. Again, it is not for the purpose of people to be storing or keeping things for that excessive amount of time. There is a local private property business that people can go and store their things at, and they charge a certain amount a day. But what we're finding and what I'm finding is people are misusing this parking lot, and things that are staying for excess of 7 days, if not a month, is far too long, and is again makes me have to have everything removed. So obviously Doug Smith Drive with the 4-hour parking is enforced when we're up there. But the parking lot is a major concern of people really misusing it and using it as their own personal storage, thinking that we don't follow up with this. But we do, and I do, and I will remove anything that is being kept in excess of 7 days.
Member Taylor.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the only sign there now is a green P parking sign.
Yeah.
So how does how do you know the rules? There was a sign before, but it was never replaced with the 7-day parking there. And so, Cody, are you saying is a car with an empty boat trailer excessive storage if someone's gone to their cottage across the river?
Cody, Alice, and then Derek. Whoever wants to take this.
So from my understanding, and Derek might be able to help me out with this too, with municipal roadways and parking lots, I believe it's only 48 hours. So anything excess of that gives us the ability to have a car removed from Coldwater Road, things like that. But Derek might know what that timeline is as well as in regards to the signage.
Derek or Allison.
All right. Well, I can step in for just two components and maybe guide this conversation to get us at a resolve. Where the signage is lacking on Doug Smith, for instance, or not Doug Smith, rather the Severn Falls parking lot that's on Upper Big Chute. So you're absolutely right. Right now, that existing sign that had been knocked over was simply replaced by a green P sign. We're having this conversation to get an idea and set the rules. We have a new brand. We're looking to brand our signs and post our rules and do that township wide. So it's good to have this conversation and update the bylaw with what we expect of the community and expect of our bylaw officers, and then produce the sign. So yes, there does need to be some additional signage placed at all these locations to clearly describe the rules. But that's what we're here to talk about today, is what will the rules be. On the note of how long can you abandon a vehicle, so really it's called abandonment. If you take a registered vehicle in the province of Ontario and leave it in a public space for more than 48 hours, you've abandoned that vehicle, and it can be towed. Now that's up to the bylaw officer and police officer, of course, but that's the idea behind long-standing public parking. But it does all reflect back to the bylaw. I think these two areas of Severn Falls and I would say cottage access locations, perhaps there is a desire to extend like overnight parking, but still keep the 7-day limit. We can certainly entertain that idea to keep that provision in place where it stands. But it certainly does make sense to take an area like Washago Centennial Park or the Washago Community Center or Mashadash Hall. There's a lot of individual parking locations, even trailheads, for instance, where we don't believe, at least at a staff level, that it's our service to provide a long-standing trailer or commercial vehicle storage or any of these things which detracts or reduces the effectiveness of offering that recreation service.
Allison, do you have anything to add to that, or are you?
I just wanted to provide one point of clarification. Derek's covered off most of everything else. When it comes to the towing of vehicles, our general practice, just for council's information, normally is that Cody will go up and he'll issue notices to all the vehicles, and say if it's on a Thursday, he'll issue notice. We'll come back on the Monday. We'll see what's left. Normally, we get about 50% compliance with people having removed their stuff because they don't want it towed. And then we end up towing the rest of them, which still only happens maybe another additional 24 hours later because it does take time to organize the tow trucks. So we do make sure that people have plenty of notice. It's way beyond their 48 hours that they should be parking there. And in some circumstances, by the time we arrange a tow, they've been there for 4 days. So just wanted to provide some clarification as to how that process is. We don't just show up and then issue a ticket and tow their car. They're given plenty of time to try and remove their vehicles and trailers themselves. And we have had some reasonable success in getting people into compliance that way. But it does seem to be in a couple of areas that we're back with the same folks every year. So.
Okay, Member Taylor?
Well, just the mayor had mentioned this through the chair that that Severn Falls parking always had 7-day parking, and it should be grandfathered. It's been going on for 50 years there.
Any comments?
Again, this is entirely from staff's perspective. We've given you our proposal and thoughts, and this is entirely up to council to set what service standard they'd like for their township. So if staff or if council disagrees with staff's recommendation that we do no daytime enforcement and no permits for Washago this year, and we purely focus on prohibiting the overnight parking, then that's staff's recommendation. If council would like to see something different, then it's just a matter of providing that to us.
Supplementary, Taylor, or are you done?
I'll just say I think that the T Lake and the Severn Falls parking should stay the way it was before with proper signage.
Okay, Member Burkett.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. And I did hear Derek say that a 7-day parking was fine, but I didn't know, to Cody's point, that they were leaving trailers. I go by there twice a day, and that's fine. I don't agree with them leaving trailers there for extended period of time, but to have an exemption for that area, because they do bring dollars to that area, like I see no problem with a 7-day parking. And they don't park there. There may be the odd vehicle that does. For the most part, they're gone on Monday morning as I come through there all the time, but there is the odd vehicle that does linger. But if it was 7 days, I would support that if staff is okay with it.
Okay. So I want to talk about Washago for a minute. You're not going to have tickets for up there for this year?
Presently, staff's proposal is that we not proceed with the permit parking required for Washago this year.
So if Aurelia hasn't decided what they're going to do, and they all of a sudden the residents find out they can come up and just use our parking spot and not pay anything and have at it, what about us that want to put our boat in and our canoe and go out? Lori?
All right. I have something stuck in my throat today and my voice is hoarse. Member Cox and I were on a chamber meeting recently with the mayor of Aurelia, and it is coming to them, I think, at the end of the month. And he said he was going to do his absolute best not to have the same paid parking that they had, given all the challenges they had last year. So obviously we know he's only one vote and he can't guarantee that. It's not a huge rush to get through this. You can always defer it. Allison may be kicking me under the table here, but until you know what Aurelia does. But our idea was we put the parking restrictions in COVID because other municipalities put them in and we're forcing them north. But generally, we don't want to restrict our visitors because we want them to support our businesses. So we're hoping that Aurelia is as good as the mayor's word, and that we don't need to do it. So that's sort of why we've gone that route.
Okay, so I would like to sit on this for a little bit then, because if Aurelia doesn't do it, and our residents who live here and pay taxes and will also go uptown and buy something, I would like us to be able to, our residents to be able to park there. So if you can hold that section, I would just as soon wait and see what happens with the city of Aurelia. Member Cox, you had your card up.
Yeah, through the chair. You're also going to see that the city of Aurelia, because it's doing its Centennial Drive reconstruction downtown, they are now working with the chamber on how many parking spots and where they're going to park for their boats and trucks and cars to get in, to go into the boat ramp there. Right now, there's an option of 17, or the option may be off area parking with transportation back and forth. So the chamber is now working with the city on this one. So even if they don't charge parking, their boat ramp will be limited to the most at 17. So it may be something we would wait to look at just to see what they're doing because of that.
I would appreciate if we could hold off on that one, please. And take that, set it aside. So is there any more questions, answers, anything, or will we move on to lunch? Allison?
Thank you. There's a third part to our report yet.
Let's move on then.
Thank you.
So me.
So part 3 is dealing with our school areas. So while this whole report started out of the request for a review of the parking bylaw with good neighbors, it's somewhat opened a can of worms. And so we brought forward multiple pieces back to you. So right now we have on-street parking restrictions around the Marchmont School. That's around 500 meters. So we are looking to put in a 200 meter urban standard, which would impact the Severn Shores Public School and Coldwater Public School. We do have issues, particularly that we are regularly enforcing around the Severn Shores School with parking issues. And now that the sidewalk is in, they're backing up onto side roads. So we just want to make sure that the parking is restricted to one side, similar to what's happened in Marchmont, as well as around the Coldwater Public School. So, and if there's any questions, I believe Derek can field those ones on this one.
I think this is really good. We just have to enforce it, Cody. Any questions on that or comments? Okay, that was easy.
Council can give me one moment here just to make a few amendments to the motion to reflect the discussion. That would be great.
Okay. And after this motion, then we'll take 15-minute break and then be back by quarter after, okay? This is still quite active weather out here today. "10 feet high and rising, Derek."
I know, we're watching.
Yeah, the sides are all coming in.
Okay, so motion reads that administration report A22-008 dated February 23rd, 2022 regarding parking bylaw review be received and that council endorses the recommendations outlined within administration report number A22-008 with the following exceptions: that summer parking permitting in Washago be deferred until the city of Orillia has made a decision on its summer parking program, and that the Tea Lake and Severn Falls parking be permitted to have 7-day parking. And the last one is just that, and further that the necessary bylaw be brought forward to amend the parking bylaw to the next regular council meeting.
Okay, Member Taylor.
Yeah, just to help Cody out and through the chair, the intent of that parking lot in Severn Falls was for a boat trailer and a vehicle, not a house trailer, in which we had complaints a few years ago with house trailers that are spending nights on end there. So can that be clarified a bit more, Allison, that it's only for vehicle and boat trailers? I think that the mayor can recall we had complaints a couple of years ago with 2 trailers there and have a fire in the parking lot and lots of noise.
Certainly, so I can add that. So now the paragraph will read, and that the Tea Lake and Severn Falls parking be permitted for vehicle and boat trailers to have 7-day parking.
And so then the other one that I don't know if it needs to be in there, but that you were going to put signs in the parking lots to tell them what the laws are for that area. Does that need to be in there, or has Derek got that and Cody and everything's good?
I don't believe it needs to be in the motion because coming out of this will be a fair amount of signage that will have to go in all the other locations too.
Okay, so I'm good with it then. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Member Taylor, seconded by Member Bettesworth, all in favor. And that's carried. So we'll see you at 12:15. Enjoy your lunch. go back to new business, right, Allison?
Correct. So you're on G1.
Correct. But are we not going to go back to the ones that Judith and I pulled?
After we deal with the two that were already on the agenda.
Okay. Which one did you pull, Judith? I'm sorry, I forgot.
We have
the culverts.
Which number though?
D2.1.
Okay, just let me write that down. Okay, so we'll go on to new business correspondence from the County of Simcoe. Chief Cranny, could you come in on this, please? There you are.
Yeah, so I think this is going to be put off for a report from me on a further council meeting.
Okay. So I just hope that all council got to read what was there, and we at the regional review just felt that it wasn't appropriate that 6 of us make or 7 of us make a decision on what's going to affect our whole county, and that each municipality should be able to in on that. So that's all that was. And Chief, if you're going to report at a different time, we'll just go on.
Oh, I have a motion for you, Madam Chair.
Perfect.
Okay, so the motion reads that the correspondence from the county.
Mayor's got his card up there, Allison.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Member Briquette.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. Did I miss it? But in the report, did they mention anything about the struggles that each municipality has with hiring recruits? Like there was nothing in there.
There was nothing about recruits, Member Briquette.
Well, like, and I'm not sure, like they've gone to great detail to provide this. I have no idea why. And each of us struggle. Anyways, I'll just leave it. Maybe when we talk about it later.
But that's something that Chief Cranny, he's going to be reporting back to the regional review what the feelings are from our township. That's something that Chief can add in for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Good with that, Chief Cranny?
Yeah, we can. We definitely will make those comments coming forward.
Because every municipality in town is going to get back to regional review. We're going to sort through them all, and I think we already know the answer. But anyway, we'll look at them again. So, Allison, go ahead, please.
Sure. The motion reads that the correspondence from the County of Simcoe regarding a regional government task force fire services be received and referred for a staff report.
Mover and seconder. Moved by Member Becksworth, second by Member Taylor. All in favor. And that's carried. Go on to G2. That's mine for the It Start campaign. So Allison's going, or not Allison, sorry, Tracy's going to have something on the website. And I'm just asking today that I would like the Council of the Township of Severn to support It Start campaign and proclaim and recognize March the 21st as International Day of the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. And I would like that sent around to our other municipalities and towns.
Thank you. So the motion, so just for Member Dunlop's information, the county clerk did send correspondence out to all the county clerks on this matter with a copy of the county report and such, which is why the report's attached to your item that you sent in. So
I give that to you. Okay.
So the motion that I have for you is pretty much what you just said. So it's that the Township of Severn participate in the hashtag It Starts campaign between March 1st and March 31st, 2022, including a proclamation supporting the initiative and recognizing March 21st as the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination.
Thank you. I'd like to move that. Do you have a seconder?
For you to move it, Madam Chair, you'll have to pass the chair to someone else.
Okay, I'll pass the chair to whoever else it was then.
I believe the vice. Oh, Member Taylor, are you?
Yeah, I was the.
You were the past chair.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah. So if you can chair that for this, so.
Okay, if you could read the motion, and then we'll ask for a mover and a seconder, please.
Certainly. So the motion again is that the Township of Severn participate in the hashtag It Starts campaign to March 1st and March 31st, 2022, including a proclamation supporting the initiative and recognizing March 21st 2022 as the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination.
Okay, we've got a moved by Member Dunlop, seconded by Member McIntyre. All in favor? And it's carried.
Perfect, thank you.
Pass it back to the chair.
Thank you. So we'll move up to the consent agenda.
So now you have D 1.7.
So D1,
which is the strategic plan report card.
Well, I was hoping we were going to be able to pull that out and talk in more depth of it.
Absolutely. So like any item that you pull, you can speak to it as much as you'd like.
Yeah, I thought we were going to have a chance to go down through it, and I don't know whether Lori's the one that needs to start and go down through this for us.
Start if the committee wishes. It's pretty self-explanatory. Tracy's done a really great report card, and I love the stop sign, but it's in our branded colors, so it sort of looks like a stop color, stop green, yellow, and red, except that it's in our branded colors. So you want me to go through each one? I probably can't speak to each and every one, but I'll start, I guess, and the department heads will pop in when they wish to. So we are working we've said we're completed on the backload of roads. I suspect we would never be completed on that, but we've done way more than, I think we marked it complete because we've done way more than we forecasted to do. So we've done 31.7 kilometers over the 16.2 that we forecasted. The recreation master plan is working its way to completion through the Culture and Recreation Advisory Committee. I'm supposed to not
Can I ask a question on, can we ask questions as you go through?
Sure. I might need the department heads to help me with the specifics.
I think this is, I don't know if it's an easy one or not. When are we expecting that recreational master plan?
I'm gonna let Derek take that, I think soon, but I don't know the exact date. I think he's still here. Or Judith might be able to answer because she's on crack.
Actually, I can field that one because I just spoke with Pat last week. So it's tentatively scheduled to come with the final version to the June Corporate Services Committee meeting.
There you go.
Great. So, and in that, maybe, I don't know, was Judith or Derek who can answer, is there going to be something on that parkland that was given to the township in Port Severn?
Yes.
I believe so.
Excuse me. The recommendations will all be there for every park and what they talk about.
Okay, good.
You want me to keep going, Madam
Chair? Sure. If there's any questions, then just put your card up, but yeah, just keep going if you can.
Yeah. So we have completed simplifying the building and planning applications and added some online services. We're going to continue to work on that. I don't know, it's not in this particular project, but in our budget, we are working on a new financial system that will take you right through from application to payment, which is the piece that we're missing at the moment.
Member Taylor has his card up before you go on.
Just through the chair to Lori and or Andrea, see she's on there, that I get numerous complaints and just very poor feedback from the planning department. So whether is that in this category here, or is that somewhere else? Because I think it's not completed. I think it's in progress, but that's right. I do get a lot of complaints.
You get complaints about the process to apply,
or if getting feedback.
Right. So.
Like for example, Narrows Road.
Okay, so this is probably not the appropriate time to talk about that. The strategic plan talks about building an application process. So that's how you fill out your forms, how you do online services. I would suggest that that's probably a more appropriate offline discussion. I've had at great lengths with the mayor and the deputy mayor on where we are at that, but I probably don't want to talk about that at the moment.
Okay, you can save that for your own conversations. Okay, carry on.
Develop and implement a septic reinspection plan. So that is completed, and you got a very excellent report from the chief building official last week. So that was priority one. So I should have started with, you'll remember council picked 4 priorities that they wanted to work on in the strategic plan. The second one is community safety and well-being. So we have, as required by the province, completed our safety and community safety and well-being plan, and it is posted on the website as required. We are currently, just for council's information, working on an implementation strategy, and the county has been kind enough to take the lead and retain the same consultant, because although the province requires it to be in a lower tier exercise or implementation plan, we really don't do the things, provide the services that the community's plan talks about, because it's about poverty and housing and mortality and different things that just aren't in a lower tier wheelhouse. So when the plan was created, we went back to the county and said, you know, we're happy to participate, but we just don't have the expertise to do that. So they retained the same consultants who are very connected to those services, and I sit on a table that talks about the implementation plan, but they are really doing all of the work, and they really do have the background and the expertise to do it where we don't. Which is why I guess the second action was implementing the safety recommendations as financially feasible. So there hasn't been much really an ask of the municipality for money for that, because it's really just coordinating services that are already there. Create a police coordination group with partners. So we didn't do that specifically, but because we were required by new legislation to have 1 detachment for our 4 local municipalities, there will be a police services board. The legislation hasn't actually been finalized, so we haven't, other than the last time I reported to council, there hasn't been any more work done on that. We're still sort of waiting for that to come. And ensure frequent communication from the detachment commander. So definitely that, I would say that's completed, and it's been working very well. Not only is Inspector Yateman coming to council every quarter with some great information, he's been very accessible. I speak to him all the time. Derek speaks to him all the time. Allison speaks to him all the time. Whenever we have an issue or something we need his help with, he's been very, very good. Sorry, I need a drink because my voice is not great today. Alrighty, asset management plan. So we are ensuring adequate contributions based on our asset management plan. I think we're actually a bit ahead of that. We're in the process of doing a more detailed inventory. The one thing we haven't started yet is a long-term capital plan, but Andrew hopes to do it this year in our next budget. And we are integrating the capital plan into our annual budget process. So that's, we have been doing that, and we will continue to do that. And then your last priority, these weren't necessarily in the same order as it was presented, but we did it for fit. So I had mentioned in my cover report that I can see the difference just from the strategic plan that we created with no brand into this beautiful report card. So we did hire a communications officer. We're on our second one. We are improving our social media. Down below, there's some stats, and we have increased tremendously our followers, which is exciting. We still have some work to do on highlighting and promoting community events. We have definitely enhanced our public notices and our newsletters. We had a lot of good comments on our tax bill insert and our water bill insert that people have really noticed the improvement, both in the branding, so the look, and the content with some professional writing help. We still are working on promotion in the township. We've been working with Lake Country to do some photography and all sorts of cool projects, but that'll be an ongoing one. Council will remember we updated the website Let's say, has it been 2 years now? I've lost track in COVID what the timeline was, but our new website remains very fresh and up to date. And we're very proud of that. We are still working on plain language publications. So Tracy's been working closely with, for example, the building department to do a list of, or a publication on this is how your building permit process works. So we're working through some of those documents still. We have improved.
Lori, can I interrupt you? Lori, can I interrupt you? You're talking about those building permits. It's got to be pretty, you know, cookie cutter to be able to get a building permit online. But so is this what Tracy Roxborough is working on? Is that to set out, here's what you need to do before you ever come to us, or?
Yeah, it's a how-to guide. She's working on it with Nick. They're working on a how-to guide.
Okay.
Yeah. Where was I? Improving public access to the council agenda minutes. So council has seen that through the agenda, and we've gone to the streaming, which I think has been well received. And the last thing we need to work on this year, which Tracy and Derek have started and will be done in this budget year, is install an electronic signboard in the administrative office. So overall, we've got 55% of the actions complete, 36% ongoing, and 2 to still be done. So on a 4-year term, I think that's a great place to be with 6-8 months to go.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, thank you for that. Allison?
Thank you. So the related motion reads that Chief Administrative Officer report CAO 2022-01 dated February 23rd, 2022 regarding Council Strategic Plan report card be received for information.
Mover and a seconder. Moved by Member Taylor, second by Member Burkett. All in favor? Carried. Member Cox, you're up next for D 2.1.
Yes, I would like us to support this resolution. I would prefer that it doesn't say more funding, it would say sustainable funding. And anyway, I would like to support it. And I know yesterday at the county, Lynn Dolan said that she was going to send out a link for the AMO, but the AMO isn't going to even look at it until next Thursday. So I still would like to support this because I believe that this is important for all of us.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, Allison.
The motion then reads that the Council for the Township of Severn supports the resolution from the Township of Clearview regarding sustainable funding for infrastructure projects, bridge and culvert replacements.
Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Member Stevens, second by Member Cox. All in favor? Okay. And we're going to move on now to D 2.2, and I'm going to ask Member Taylor to step into the chair again.
Okay, I'm back in here. So D 2.2, Member Dunlop, you wanted to talk about Northern Ontario School of Medicine.
So through the chair, I'd like to support this. I'd like the Township of Severn to support the municipality of Shuma. Hopefully when students are studying in the north, and especially, no, I shouldn't say especially medicine, but medicine, because they don't have enough doctors in the north, and they feel that if they had some students that got up there, loved the north, they may stay, and I know they would really appreciate that school going through up there. So I would like to make a motion that we support Shuma. I don't know how you pronounce that right, but.
Okay, so the motion then reads that the Council for the Township of Severn supports the resolution from the municipality of Shunya regarding the expansion of Northern Ontario School of Medicine.
Do we have a mover? Moved by Member Dunlop, second by Member Burkett. All in favor? That's carried, and I'll pass it back to the chair.
Thank you. So now we go down to committee member updates, please. And we'll start with Ward 1. We'll go right across.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair, 3 things to report here. The Machinash Community Heritage Center, we're working on a new memory tree. We're going to replace the existing tree, and we're actually going to get a tree painted on the wall, and the little maple leaves with the memory names are going to be put onto the tree on the wall. Segway Chamber of Commerce, we're working on a bridge opening ceremony in Port Severn, and it's going to be on Saturday, June the 11th. So more details to follow. And the third thing is just a reminder for our Villages and Hamlets Committee members, we're meeting this Friday morning at 9 a.m. That's it. That's a reminder for
Member Cox.
Is there an agenda out for that?
No, it's just, we're in the very early stages, but it's going to go roughly from noon till 3.
Your meeting? It says 9 o'clock online.
We don't have a budget yet or a agenda yet.
Oh, which one are you talking about? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I'm talking about your Village and Hamlets.
9 a.m.
But there's no agenda.
No, we don't have one yet.
Oh,
I guess I think Derek will send it out.
The agenda will be up before the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Member Burkett, you had a question?
Sorry, through the chair. I thought for the public's sake, the meeting had to be out a week before. Is this an exception?
Ask Derek.
Like, if that's the case, you may have to postpone it. Like, how does this work?
Yeah. Derek, or who else might be there that could help us with this?
Allison.
Allison.
I will touch base with the Director of Public Works. The agenda should be up by now.
Thank you.
But hold it, supplementary, if I may, Madam Chair. But how does it, I thought all our agendas had to be out a week before, at least a week in advance.
Allison?
I will touch base with the Director of Public Works and I will get back to you, Member Burkett.
Great, thank you.
Member Taylor?
I think there are many cases where it's less than a week's notice when it goes out. So
the procedural bylaw does provide for some flexibility. Our normal best practice is a week ahead. Normally for Culture and Rec, I know it's out the week before. Committee of Adjustment, it's out the week before. Corporate Services, Council, Planning, it's out the week before. So I will touch base with the Director of Public Works and get back to you.
Perfect. Any other questions? Ward 2.
The BIA, the Promotion and Events Committee, have been meeting regularly. The month of February was promoted as Heart Month, coinciding with the Heart of Severn. Random acts of kindness. We handed out chocolate hearts to the businesses and residents, and the businesses decorated all their windows. It looked very nice. We're working on promotion events for the rest of the year, and we should have those all up and organized by the middle or end of March or beginning of April, so our advertising and marketing committees can plan the campaigns for them. I've applied to the Simcoe County Tourism for a grant funding for a strategic plan creation for the BIA so we can establish our direction for the future and to help our board make informed, measurable decisions and increase business participation and involvement in our future endeavors, and work with our tourism partners, Lake Country, Aurelia Chamber of Commerce, and Simcoe County Tourism. In Lake Country, we've seen an increase in hits on our web pages this past 7 months, and we are looking forward to our Tap Into Maple program. Roxborough is working with the Lake Country on making a Severn video, which is really great, and they've worked together a lot. The strategic plan for Lake Country should be finished next month and has been a really good learning process for all members. Chamber of Commerce, they're busy planning for their 2022 events, but unfortunately there will not be a Perch Festival this year. First of all, one thing is supply of, they can't find a boat for the prize, they can't find fishing poles, and a lot of that comes from China. So they're looking for a group or groups to facilitate and manage the festival for next year and the rest. Adam Chambers attended, and he brought forward the different things that were going on and about housing and internet. And when we talked about broadband yesterday, Carmen Stumpo was there, And his concern is access to virtual healthcare will depend on high-speed internet. And this introduces a new form of health inequity if though there are some with and some without internet access, which is very true. The Business Achievement Awards are on April 7th at the casino, and the tickets are $150 each. I'm on that committee and a judge for this event, and we are starting to look for sponsors. I'm also the new chair for the advocacy committee, and Marcy Sumac is going to help me. And I know that we're only supposed to talk about committee reports, but I did attend a few webinars, and there was a really good one with FCM on sustainability and climate change. And then the Canadian Urban Institute on revitalizing our downtown after COVID. It was 2 afternoons, and there were people from all over the world. Like, we were in a chat, and it was like people from Stockholm. It talked about the homeless and what they'd done. They showed a picture of streets in Toronto that used to have beautiful flowers and everything, and it's just garbage. And people were afraid to be going downtown. I took a webinar on the strat plan with the county, some zero net climate changes, and an Indigenous history on reconciliation.
Thank you. Any questions? Moving right along to ward number 3.
Thank you, Chair. I want to pass along to the council a huge thank you from the Physicians and Surgeons Recruitment Committee that I sit on for your increased contribution. It has given them some flexibility that they were completely stymied with under COVID with regard to fundraising, and it was so much appreciated. And it's actually challenged Aurelia and Oromadati to have another look at their budgets for next year and step up with a increased contribution too. So thank you very much to the budget process and to you. In Otis Park, Winterfest has now been scheduled for Saturday, March the 5th, and it will be hopefully bigger and better than ever, providing the weather cooperates. And the Otis Park AGM which we could not have before because of COVID, has now been rescheduled for the 28th of March on a Monday night at 7 p.m. And those that normally attend will be getting their invitations to that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Member Betsworth? Okay. Number 4. Ron, can you just hold your space bar down and then you're good to go?
Okay, I've a total of 7 meetings over January and February. 4 were library board, 2 of them was the finance committee. I've also had 3 SSEA meetings in that time frame as well, for a total of 7. And that is it for me to this point. And we're meeting again at greater in March for some plans that we've had in place for quite some time. But that's it.
Are there any questions for Member Stevens? Seeing none, we'll move right across to ward number 5.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of points. The rink has been a success. The staff's done a good job in keeping it up to speed at the Washago Community Center. In fact, my wife skates there regularly when the ice is in good shape. Further to that, the art club is back to meeting in the community center with the restrictions being lifted somewhat. And about a week ago, Friday, I met with Pat and Tracy Roxborough at the community center for an opportunity to take a picture of the new rink, and it's the way it's looking now with the signage and so on. And finally, what else? Oh, I need to get with Judith and talk about the Beautify Washago group. Big loss with Don passing, and we'll need to reshake the trees here to find who from the Horticultural Society can meet with us in the in the Lions and the Art Club and others and merchants. So that's to be reported later on. That's about all I have from here.
Thank you. Any questions for Jim? No. Member Burkett.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Down at the county, the forestry department had another record year of sales. Of course, they've got 33,000 acres that are for all to use in Simcoe County. Kudos to them. The cart rollout, the smaller cart rollout, out of the 150,000 homes that are in the county, there's to date only been 5,300 that have asked for smaller carts. And I think affordable housing, I sit on that committee, but we're just moving along, and we're almost at our goal that we need to attain by 2024. Those are my comments, Madam Chair.
Any questions for Member Burkett? Okay, so I'll do mine. The BIA, we didn't meet because of Family Day. We meet next week. I put up the hearts, or we put up the hearts in the arbors down in Coldwater. I gave out the chocolate heart foil on a piece of paper that said Happy Valentine's Day and thanks for shopping in Coldwater. They're well received. They're just a great thing to have out there. The county, so as Member Burkett said about the card exchange, hasn't been as huge as they expected it to be. And actually they think they've got enough carts to be able to switch out for what they've already got, because they were worried about orders not getting through. So they've got enough to go around. So that's great. I've asked for mine and I'm supposed to get it second week of March. So I'm looking forward to that. Something we were told yesterday, the warden gave us an update on SWIFT, and all the awards that are going out this year are already out. Something the CAO did tell us is that the county is going to GPS where internet is themselves. So we don't need to be out spending money. They're going to do it, and then they will give us where, or to the contractors where they need to go. So that was really happy to know that we don't have to spend money. Our Coldwater Library, the Severn Library, sorry, the COVID is, the update is things are staying as they are. One person in, unless you're family, then you can, any number can go until further notice. Something that's really exciting there this year, our librarian applied for and got, it's a hanger that goes on your mirror, and you can take it out for a week. So you can go to any park in Ontario, day pass, free of charge. It's not overnight, it's just during the day, and you go down, you can reserve it. So if you know that if I'm going this week, you can go, you can reserve it for next week. So it's a really fun thing for parents to take their kids out, swim for the day, whatever they want to do, but it'll be free of charge. So you had to apply for that. And this is the second year it's happened, and Dee actually got, so we have 3 at our library. We were all pretty excited about that. What else do I have here? Oh, I attended MPP Dunlop and invited me to go to First Tap with her. And that was a lot of fun. I think it was the coldest morning of the year, -32, but had a great day. And then this past Sunday, I heard on the radio Sunday morning that Steve McNeil, he skated all across Canada in different arenas, and he skates for 19 hours at a time for Alzheimer's. So he was at Starbucks Sunday. We went up, got a coffee. I got to play his air guitar, donated money. He's a postal worker, and they had a post office box there, and you just deposited your money in. Whatever amount of money he made that day was going to be matched by a secret volunteer, or person. So that was huge, and he was so happy to be here. So that was that's all I've got. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Okay, seeing none, we'll move right along. I see Lori's back. Is there a question, Lori?
No, I was on the agenda next.
Yeah.
My agenda died out on me again here.
CAO updates is next, so I'm ready whenever you're ready for me.
Well, you go ahead, because this is the second time this has just disappeared today. So you go ahead, please.
Just a couple quick things. All the staff are back in the office. I'm losing track of the days. Yesterday was Tuesday, so it felt like the first day of school. I could hear everybody excited to see each other and talk to each other, and it's nice to feel some life in the building again. So everybody is happy to be back. We hope it stays that way, but as we thought it was the last time, every time it was the last time until it wasn't the last time. So we're hoping that this is the last time. A couple weeks ago, we had our first CAO meeting in 2 years that wasn't about COVID. So we used to do a quarterly CAO meeting and talk about what things were going on, and we'd been so consumed with COVID we didn't. But there was just one thing that I wanted to share that I thought was really interesting. All the municipalities are finding a really hard time recruiting staff, particularly at the management level, but it's largely because there are no houses. So that would have never occurred to me, but and a couple of the people were saying, and really in particular, and Barry were saying, we actually get really great candidates and they accept, and then they go to find a house and they back away. So that really drove home to me how important not even affordable housing is, but just available housing. Like there is just nothing available. So I thought that was a really interesting thing that I wanted to share with council. And on that, it's so busy in development. I was telling the mayor and the deputy mayor, never in my career, but in the last 6 months, I've had 2 or 3 developers from Toronto just cold call me. We're looking to move north. Do you know of any land? So that's the pressures. It's an interesting time. Exciting, but busy. I think that's it for me, Your Worship, or through Chair.
So I guess Mike or I should have, or I guess it doesn't matter, announced that Andrea Fay, who is the deputy clerk from the county, is in Aurelia now. So we'll miss her at the county, but lucky Aurelia. Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair to Lori. That's interesting you would say that. That was the discussion we had yesterday at the chamber, was the same thing. That was there's staff shortage, but there's staff shortage, a lot of it due to the same thing.
Mm-hmm. So you get local moves, like the deputy emeritus mentioned Andrea Fay, and I'm assuming she lives local because she was the Midland clerk, I think, before. But then how does the county replace her? Because that's a bigger position, and if there's nowhere to live, where do these people come from? So that's tough.
There's a girl who was worked for the Burlington Fire Department, and she's now the deputy chief of Innisfil. And she comes up and stays at her in-laws in Allison, and her mother's in Coldwater because they can't find a place to live here. So dad's at home with the kids, and when she's off, she gets to go home. Same idea, yeah.
So not getting too far into the weeds, we were in Best Buy on Sunday. The young guy working in there is paying $2,400 for an apartment at Barrie. And he works at Best Buy. I don't know how they manage. Anyway, Allison, I think you must have
We have no closed session, Madam Chair, so it's just adjournment.
Okay. Moving to seconder to adjourn. Oh, everybody wants to stay. Moved by Member Stevens, second by Member McIntyre. All in favor? Enjoy your afternoon. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Bye-bye.